City Council meeting. I will call the meeting to order and ask Nicole to take roll call, please.
Bodie,
Here.
Cacciatore,
Here.
Carberry Montgomery,
Here.
Kroll,
Here.
Rosendahl.
Here.
Please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we pause to orient ourselves to the kind of civic life we are here to practice. Civility, as we understand it, is not politeness, etiquette, or agreement. It's an inner disposition rooted in recognizing the equal human dignity of every person present, including those with whom we sharply disagree. Each of us is responsible for how we speak, how we listen, and how we conduct ourselves. We're not responsible for controlling one another's views, reactions, or conclusions. This space belongs to all of us. We will speak honestly, refrain from demeaning or coercing one another, and remain present even when the conversation is difficult. By holding one another in view as persons rather than obstacles, we sustain the trust that makes shared civic life possible in Urbandale tonight and beyond. All right, I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right, we have a number of very special presentations tonight. I'm going to start with one very, very special one for one of our wonderful residents of Urbandale, Bruce Bernard, who was recently inducted into the Iowa Volunteer Hall of Fame last Friday, and we're going to recognize him here tonight. Whereas the city of Urbandale is enriched by the dedication, compassion, and service of its residents, who generously give their time and talents to strengthen our community, and often extend far beyond what can be measured. Whereas Bruce Bernard has exemplified the highest ideals of volunteer service through more than 25 plus years of unwavering commitment to the Urbandale community and the greater central Iowa region. Whereas Bruce has helped strengthen community systems through his founding leadership in the Urbandale Community Action Network, improving coordination of human services for residents. And whereas Bruce has made a lasting impact on community inclusion by helping lead efforts to develop the Urbandale Miracle League Field and the all-inclusive playground, creating accessible spaces for individuals of all abilities. Whereas Bruce has strengthened civic life through his service on boards, commissions, faith-based outreach, and advisory groups, consistently fostering collaboration and shared purpose. And whereas Bruce's lifelong dedication to service, leadership, and community building has been recognized through his selection to the Iowa Volunteer Hall of Fame, one of the highest honors bestowed upon volunteers in the state of Iowa. Now therefore, I, Robert Andeweg, Mayor of the City of Urbandale, on behalf of the Urbandale City Council and the entire community, do hereby recognize and honor Bruce Bernard for his induction into the Iowa Volunteer Hall of Fame. Let's give him a round of applause for that.
Great community. I've been here a long time. That's what happens. Worked to make those things happen, many of which are sitting right behind me right now. So one thing I would say to you is get involved, because where you live then becomes a community. There's a big difference. Thank you.
Bruce is too modest. He may say there's a lot of fingerprints on some things he's done, but his fingerprints are on a lot of things in Urbandale. So Bruce, thank you again for everything you've done and will continue to do in Urbandale. We truly appreciate your help in Urbandale. All right, we will move on to Bike Month in Urbandale. Whereas May is recognized across the country as Bike Month, a time to celebrate the many benefits of bicycling for health, transportation, and community well-being. Whereas Urbandale's 50-plus miles of paved trails offer safe, scenic routes for community, exercise, and recreation, connecting neighborhoods and linking a growing regional trail system. Whereas biking helps reduce traffic congestion, lower pollution, and support a healthy, active lifestyle. Whereas the Iowa Bicycle Coalition has been a strong partner in promoting safe and accessible bicycling across Iowa, including its advocacy for bike-friendly laws and improved infrastructure. Whereas Urbandale is committed to sustainability and building a bike network that works for residents of all ages and abilities. Whereas all road users have shared responsibility to ensure the safety of bicyclists by giving them space and respecting their right on the road. Now therefore, I, Robert Andeweg, Mayor of the City of Urbandale, do hereby proclaim May 2026 as Bike Month in Urbandale and encourage residents to participate in Bike to Work Day on May 15 and to explore and enjoy bicycling in our community. And we have Alex Rice from the Street Collective to accept this tonight. So Alex, please come up.
My name is Alex Rice. I'm the Executive Director of the Street Collective. So we are a nonprofit that works in the Des Moines Metro to make the Metro an amazing place to walk and to bike. And so this is our big month. Next week is Bike to Work Week, so I encourage you all to bike to work. And then Friday is specifically Bike to Work Day next week, so I encourage you all, if nothing else, to bike to work on that day. But the work we do at the Street Collective, we have our shop on 6th Avenue in the East Village in Des Moines, where we produce bicycles that are donated to us, and then we refurbish them so that they can be donated to people who need bicycles and sold affordably to the community. We also have the bike share program you may have seen around the Metro, where we've got bikes that you can check out and bike around town, turn them to that station or take them somewhere else or turn them to another station. We also do a lot of bike advocacy work, so advocating for more bike lanes, more bike trails, better policies for bicycles. And we do bike safety education so that youth and adults will be able to bike safely in our community. So happy Bike Month, everyone, and I appreciate the city and the council and the mayor for recognizing Bike Month.
All right, and now we're going to administer the oath of office to a new police officer, Caleb Blair. So I'm going to invite Sergeant Taylor to come up and introduce, please.
I present to you guys Officer Caleb Blair. Officer Blair is a graduate of Dubuque Wahlert Catholic High School. Officer Blair continued his education and graduated from Cornell College with a bachelor's degree in archaeology, history, and classical studies. Officer Blair started his law enforcement career as a seasonal park ranger working in Kentucky. Officer Blair was in the 324th Basic Academy class, graduating from the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy back in December. Officer Blair is married and has a 1-year-old son. Officer Blair is finishing out his field training on first watch. Officer Blair.
I, Caleb Blair,
I, Caleb Blair,
with the City of Urbandale,
with the City of Urbandale,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
that I will faithfully and impartially,
that I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of the office of police officer
of the Office of Police Officer
of the City of Urbandale, Iowa,
of the City of Urbandale, Iowa,
as now and hereafter required by law.
is now and hereafter required by law. Congratulations. My wife Betsy and my son Octavian.
Thank you for join our police officers, or our police force. Somebody wants to see that. So thank you for joining our force. Thank you for supporting our community and protecting our community. To his family and friends that are here tonight to support him, thank you for being here. Thank you for being his support network. He truly needs that. He'll need that on the good days. He'll need that on not so good days. So thank you for being here. We're going to do our best to protect him. You need to support him when he's on and off the job too. So thank you very much. All right, with that, we are also going to acknowledge National Police Week this month. Whereas Congress and the President of the United States have designated May 15 as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which it falls as National Police Week. And whereas members of the Urbandale Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of Urbandale. And whereas, since the first recorded death in 1786, more than 24,700 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty protecting their communities, including one of our own, Urbandale Police Officer Justin Martin, who was tragically killed in the line of duty on November 2, 2016. Now therefore, I, Robert Andeweg, Mayor of the City of Urbandale, call upon all citizens of Urbandale and upon the patriotic, civil, and educational institutions to observe May 10 through May 16, 2026 as National Police Week, with ceremonies in which all of our citizens may join in commemorating police officers past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have earned for themselves an enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of Urbandale to observe Friday, May 15, 2026 as Peace Officers Memorial Day to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities. In witness whereof I have affixed my hand on this and caused the seal of the City of Urbandale to be affixed. I'd like our Police Chief, Roger Hanson, to accept this, Chief.
Every year, Police Week, we have our Police Officer Memorial Service. And this year, that is Tuesday, May 12th, getting the date right. It's at 7 o'clock, and we do that with a bunch of agencies in the metro area here. So this year, that is being hosted by the Altoona Police Department, and we will be at the Lutheran Church of the Cross at 1701 8th Street Southwest in Altoona. 7 o'clock, if you want to see a really nice ceremony and honor those that were lost this last year, please come. We appreciate you showing up.
All right, thank you. All right, we have two more, and then we'll move on. Next is National Building Safety Month. Whereas the City of Urbandale recognizes that its growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role that our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play, both in everyday life and when disasters strike. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople and design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. Whereas these professionals are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes in the buildings where they live, learn, work, and play by protecting the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. Whereas Built to Last, the theme for Building Safety Month 2026, encourage us all to get involved and raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. Whereas each year, in observance of the Building Safety Month, the City of Urbandale City Council acknowledges to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment in home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting the lives and property. So now, therefore, I, Robert Andeweg, Mayor of the City of Urbandale, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2026 as Building Safety Month, and our Chief Inspector, Roger Schemmel, I know is here. Roger, if you can come up and accept it.
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor, member of the council. I'm very honored to be part of the presentation tonight. Building Safety Month is 4 weeks. I'm always asked why it takes a whole month. There's actually 4 weeks a part of Building Safety Week, or Building Safety Month. Week 1 is Safe Homes and Safe Communities. It's where we focus on simple action homeowners can take to improve their safety at home. Week number 2 is Voices for the Built Environment. This spotlights the building safety professionals and the roles that they play in keeping our community safe. Week 3 is Prepared to Protect. That encourages communities for preparedness and highlights how disaster resilient building codes protect people and their property. And week 4 is Communities Without Limits. It's where we showcase the importance of accessibility in building construction and design for all access. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Roger.
We did have a starter pack of pencils for Building Safety Month, so that's your starter pack. If you need more, I have a whole.
All right.
Thank you.
One for every week if you need.
And lastly, this is not on our agenda tonight because our clerk's office is too modest to recognize themselves, but this is Municipal Clerks Week in this week as well. And I caught this for tonight, and we want to acknowledge our municipal clerks. Whereas the office of municipal clerk is one of the oldest in local government, with roots dating back centuries to the earliest organized communities. Whereas the municipal clerk serves as the official keeper of public records and a cornerstone of open and transparent government. Whereas municipal clerks prepare and preserve the official minutes of the city council, manage legislative records, process official documents, and serve as a primary point of contact between residents and their local government. Whereas municipal clerks demonstrate extraordinary professionalism, dedication, and commitment to public service, often working behind the scenes to ensure the seamless operation of city government. Whereas the International Institute of Municipal Clerks has designated the first full week of May as Municipal Clerks Week to recognize the valuable contributions of municipal clerks across the nation and around the world. Whereas the City of Urbandale is proud to recognize and celebrate our City Clerk's Office, who serves our community with skill, integrity, and unwavering dedication. So now, therefore, I, Robert Andeweg, Mayor of the City of Urbandale, do hereby proclaim May 3 through 9, 2026 as Municipal Clerks Week in the City of Urbandale, and encourage all our residents to join me in expressing gratitude and appreciation to our city clerks for their outstanding contributions to our community and to the democratic process. So I'd like Nicole and Angie, if you can come up and please accept it.
This is a nice surprise. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I think one of the greatest privileges is not only serving such a wonderful community, but to also get to serve for you all. So,
Thank you for everything both of you do, so thank you. All right, that takes us through our presentations. We are now at Citizens Forum. This is your opportunity to address the council on something that's not part of a public hearing tonight. Would anyone like to address the council tonight? All right, seeing none, we will move on then. We have the adoption of minutes from the April 21, 2026 meeting.
Motion to approve April 21 minutes.
Paul,
So moved, or second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. The consent agenda is item 6. We have, let's see, 16 items on that for approval.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. We move on then to public hearings. The first public hearing is item 7.1, a public hearing and consideration of bids for the Merle Hay Road and Meredith Drive traffic signal replacement project. The public notice for this was published in the April 24, 2026 Des Moines Register. Ask any objections to that. Notice is published.
There were none.
Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And introducing this is our Director of Engineering and Public Works, John Larson. John?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is the bids for our Merle Hay Road and Meredith Drive traffic signal replacement project. This is a joint project with the city of Des Moines, and they are the lead agency on this project. So it was back on April 21st, Des Moines received 3 bids for this project. And we're recommending concurrence with the low bid from Van Manen Electric in the amount of $597,000. Their bid was $3,000 or just under the engineer's estimate. And with this project, they're actually going to be replacing 2 traffic signals. One will be at the south ramp of the interstate, and the other is on Meredith Drive with Merle Hay Road. We're lucky we're only responsible for half of the cost on the Meredith Drive project. And we're also fortunate Des Moines was able to get a grant through the Iowa DOT for $182,000. So our estimated share of the project cost is around $75,000. And we're anticipating all the work being done by the end of December of this year. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, John. Any questions for John on this item?
I don't recall, and maybe somebody said it before, this is an emergency repair, and so I guess I'm not clear what the emergency was.
There's a few welds on the mast arm that had cracked. So they've since actually taken the poles down, put temporary up, and we just had to go through the process of bidding everything out to replace it.
Thanks.
Any other questions from the council? We're in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move Resolution 152-2026.
By Bodie,
Second.
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move Resolution 153-2026.
By Bodie,
Second.
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move Resolution 154-2026.
Motion by Bodie.
Second.
Second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 7.2 is a public hearing to consider the address change for Lot 1 Tuscany Village Center Plat 1. The public notice for this was published in the April 21, 2026 Des Moines Register. And ask there any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Ask for a motion to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And to introduce this is our Community Development Director, Rose Schroeder. Rose?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The city has received a request actually from a prospective buyer of the property at 3821. We do also have the consent of the current property owner. This address, as indicated in your letter there, is 3821 121st Street. Today, at the time this was originally developed, there actually was not access to Douglas. So as you're aware, oftentimes on our corner lots or something similar, we might provide an alternative address for each, but that was not the case here. We do send notice out to surrounding properties, as well as, in this case, because it was a multi-tenant building, we sent notice to existing tenants in the building. We did receive one phone call as a result of those notices, actually from a tenant who is in the process of completing some new tenant improvements and will be moving in there shortly. So just some general questions about timing and how the process worked. The only really comments received from fire, there'll need to be some obviously new numbering placed on the building and updating fire alarm addresses and that kind of thing. So with that, staff is recommending approval of their request to change the address. I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Thank you.
Rose, is there any access off of Douglas outside of the?
There's a right in, right out, kind of right at this common property line, which if I'm not mistaken, I think came in when this corner project came in.
Yeah. Any other questions from the council? We are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll, second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve first reading of ordinance 2026-27.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 7.3 is a public hearing to consider the Colby Woods lots 75, 76, and 77 and corrected plat of Colby Woods Plat 8 amendment to the planned unit development master plan at 8,08128 Douglas Avenue. The public notice for this was published in the April 21, 2026 Des Moines Register. Ask for any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Motion to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Cacciatore.
Second.
Second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Rose?
Mayor and Council, this is a request that we have received. So here we are at 8,000. So south of Douglas, north of Dennis, in kind of bookend between 83rd and 79th. We have received a request to amend the existing PUD master plan as it relates to uses. So the request was to permit any of our uses in the CG district by right as permitted uses in this PUD. It's an interesting PUD in that it's quite large. It actually extends in part all the way to south to Hickman. So the overall PUD covers a lot of territory. The uses that are currently prescribed for this particular area are generally our uses that are in like our CO, our office, and our CN districts. So kind of lighter intensity neighborhood commercial type uses. However, there are a few CG uses which are specifically listed in the existing PUD master plan, and we've noted those in your staff report. Things like retail bakery, retail and sales of furniture and equipment, and some things like that. So at the Planning Commission meeting that was held, the Planning Commission recommended that those CG uses could be appropriate here as conditional use permits. And that way, what that does, and staff does support that and recommends that, what that does is instead of continuing to kind of individually pick prescribed uses and amend them into the PUD over time, what that recommendation says basically is that maybe not every CG use should be at every place in this PUD, but if we make it possible for them to be a conditional use permit there, then it is still possible that one of those uses could go there. Then it is possible that conditions could be put in place to make them more appropriate if so determined. And also it would make that process be a public hearing, right? So that's not an administrative decision that staff would be making. So what the Staff and Planning and Zoning Commission recommended was that all of the permitted uses in CG be allowed in this PUD master plan at this location as conditional use permits. So That is what the Planning Commission's unanimous recommendation was, as well as staff. So just to be clear, that means any of those uses, if that is ultimately the action that is taken on this amendment, any of those uses on that list would then have to apply for a conditional use permit, which are considered and heard at public hearing by our Board of Adjustment. So there would be, this would enable that to happen, but there would be another step to the Board of Adjustment. Happy to answer any questions. Oh, I'm sorry, I should add. We received one phone call prior to Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that was with general questions. We received one phone call following Planning Commission from a surrounding property owner with some questions and comments when this property here, I'm showing you cursor, came in several years ago, and some of the landscaping and fencing work that was happening here. So that is the extent of the public comment that we have received.
All right. Thank you, Rose.
Rose, would there be any uses remaining there that would be a matter of right?
Yes, anything that is in the PUD master plan today that is prescribed would still stay there. This would effectively just add a new set of possible uses as a conditional use permit. It would not remove anything.
So the examples on page 2 of uses currently allowed within the PUD, are those currently uses that do not require a CUP?
That's correct.
Okay.
And they
I got
would
it.
stay as such.
Thanks.
But the second set of examples not currently allowed, those would be allowed with a conditional use permit.
That in a longer list as well, but yes, if they are technically uses allowed in a CG today that are already explicitly allowed, nothing changes. Anything else on that list of available uses, if the action tonight is taken, would be possible to apply for a conditional use permit.
Can you explain the difference between the eating and drinking establishments bullet in the allowed uses and the eating and drinking establishments in the not allowed uses?
I will try.
Okay.
So you'll note there in parentheses on both of them, particularly in the category that is not currently allowed, that has provisions for live entertainment and other types of activities as well. It's not what I would consider just like a bar or a restaurant or a tavern, right? There are other activities that could be there. Maybe they have a dance floor, maybe they have a stage for live music.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? We are in a public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Yes, ma'am. If you ma'am, I could ask you please to come up? Yeah, thanks. If you could come up to the podium and give your name and address for the record. And if you could address your comments to the council, and then we'll try to get your question answered if you have one.
Alyssa Val, 3619, just on the other side of this proposed development. And I guess my questions are, what are the specific intents for that space that wouldn't be appropriate today? And what is the condition for appropriateness? What does that entail as far as operating hours and types of establishments that would be allowed under the new zoning?
Okay, thank you. Rose, sure? Yeah, be good.
So specifically, the literal request that sort of started the larger request here for one of these spaces was a tattoo establishment. It's not currently allowed in the list of uses in that PUD. One of our early conversations is I don't believe professionally it's a good practice to continue picking and responding to one use at a time when we're talking about some of these PUDs. So let's look at it more broadly. To answer the question about what would be considered appropriate or what conditions might be, that process is a public hearing process to determine that. So it would depend very much on what the use was. The Board of Adjustment could put limitations on operating hours. They could require other provisions depending on the use and the location. In this again, we have not received an application yet because it is not possible, but that is the purpose behind the conditional use permit, is something is not just permitted by right. Everything is considered on a case-by-case basis that's on that list, and the Board of Adjustment. In a public hearing process, there will be notification, all of those common public hearing processes that would talk about what those actions might be. It's difficult to predict what those are, right, unless we have a request in front of us.
Rose, just so the residents clear, the process is, if, for example, if someone wanted to operate a tattoo parlor, they would have to file an application for a conditional use permit. That would go before the Zoning Board of Adjustment, correct? There'd be a public hearing.
Correct, after notification and publication. Mhm.
And then the Board of Adjustment would have to consider whether the tattoo parlor met certain criteria for a conditional use permit, correct?
Correct.
And then the Board of Adjustment could attach conditions to
Correct.
that, or they could deny it.
Or they could deny them. Mhm. Yep.
And Rose, given their location and proximity to that particular establishment, anything that would come, they would more than likely be notified of a
Yes,
request.
so you might recall that we're making some clarifications to our code, actually, on notification for conditional use permits. And so today, the notification would really be to the adjacent and surrounding property owners, but the amendment that's pending in front of you today on the consent agenda was to make that similar to rezoning. So everyone within 200 feet of a property boundary would receive that notification of the time and place and what the request was. It would also have staff contact information on it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rose. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve Council Letter 8586.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 7.4 is a public hearing to consider the Metro Ice amendment to the comprehensive plan and rezoning from R1S Suburban Density Single Family District to PUD Planned Unit Development District at 5100 72nd Street. The public notice for this is published in the April 21, 2026 Des Moines Register. Any objections to this notice is published?
There were none.
Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes, and introducing us is our Assistant Community Development Director, Christy Bales. Christy?
Very good. Thank you, Mayor and Council. We are going to be talking about 5100 72nd Street with this public hearing. And I'm going to start with this aerial photo, which will be fairly familiar to you because we've been discussing this quite a bit. So we are just on the north side of the 8035 corridor. 72nd Street goes under, and we're at the Sledding Hill Winter Park, 15-acre park, entertaining a request for purchase of the eastern 5.9-ish acres shown here in yellow. City owns the property, all the land of that 15 acres. The Metro Ice facility, the building itself, is privately owned by the DM Rink Partners. Back in 1996, so a while ago, the city entered into a lease for this facility to provide public skating hours. There were 2 hockey rinks. There were arrangements made. The building owner would take care of the property in that 5.9 acres, parking lot, landscaping, all the things that come with property management. About 2 years ago, a request came in, the ice operation ceased. And through several conversations, including the building owner, city staff, legal counsel, we talked about selling it, revising the lease, different arrangements. But right now, the city is entertaining a request to sell this 5.9 acres so that the DM Rink Partnership Group owns both the building and the land beneath it. In order to do that, a couple things, dominoes in place. The Parks and Recreation Commission saw this and reviewed this because we are selling parkland. That was on their docket back in February. The property is currently zoned R1S, which is our single-family detached district. That's the first screen I had up here. So parkland typically zoned residential. That is not unusual. Because of the lease agreement, it was determined at that time it was okay for the recreational hockey facility, ice facility to operate in the R1S district. Not something normally that would be allowed today, but they tied it back to the lease with the city. Fine, no problem. But now that we go to sell the property, we need to rezone the property to reflect not only what they're currently doing within the boundaries of that lease, but also what they would like to do. So the most logical step for that was to rezone this 5.9 acres to PUD so that we can set the list of uses that will take place on this property. So it will continue as a recreational sports facility. They asked to include some additional uses. Those are listed in your staff report, essentially related to sports programming, wellness programming, and we're fine with that. There were some uses that we weren't supportive of as staff. Those were related more to like exhibit hall, conference center uses, so those are not included. But we were willing to go at least a little bit more with some additional uses. The property, as you would expect, is designated as the park's land use in our land use plan in the Forward Urbandale master plan. With this request for rezoning, there was really a need to change that designation since it will be privately owned. And so we looked at it and feel that the public, semi-public use is the logical category based on how that's described in the Forward Urbandale Comprehensive Plan. That includes not only some public places like our libraries, but also includes churches, private and public schools, community centers. So that's why we felt that that use seemed the most appropriate to change it to on the future land use plan. Staff is supportive of the rezoning from R1S to the PUD designation. In our analysis, we felt it was reasonable, appropriate. The parkland to the west will keep that same designation. The existing building and parking lot were constructed with previously approved site plans that they'll be required to maintain in perpetuity. That's actually a key phrase from our site planning code. All uses are to be within the building unless a conditional use permit is granted, is how we've written that PUD master plan. And I had mentioned how it's similar to the other public and semi-public uses. The PUD master plan was included as part of your packet as well. I'll take any questions you may have first before you open it up. The Ryan Bennett from DM Rink Partners, his two attorneys are here in the audience, I know as well. There may be others. I did not receive any calls from the public or any letters from people we notified.
All right, thank you, Christy.
You're welcome.
Questions from the council for Christy?
So in the comp plan, the whole 5,100 lot would be designated as, you said, public, semi-public, or?
Only the part shown in yellow would change its designation. We would leave it for our public parkland as it is right now.
Okay, so then the shaded area becomes what then?
That becomes the public open space, or excuse me, the public, semi-public designation, but with a PUD zoning district.
Got it, okay. That's the distinction. So
Okay.
they're both public, semi-public, but one has a PUD.
Nope.
Okay.
The left side of the screen will stay as parks and open space and remain as R1S. The
Okay.
yellow will be public, semi-public, and PUD rezoning.
Got it. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? I'll allow if the applicant wants to do one first, I'll allow that. If not, Is there anything else? Yep, you please come up and give your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Adam Dahl with Hopkins and Hebner Law Firm. As stated earlier, Ryan Bennett's back there in the blue, and then my colleague Ellie Mendlick is also with me. We've been through all this, so I don't know if I have a ton to add, but I just wanted to say I'm here to answer any questions you might have, and I guess that's really about it.
All right. Any questions for the applicant? All right, I guess not. Thank you.
Very much.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close this public hearing?
So move.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
So move the first reading of ordinance 20, oh no?
Back, we have an amendment to the
Oh,
comprehensive.
sorry.
plan first.
So what do I say?
Move the amendment to the comprehensive.
Move
plan.
the amendment to the comprehensive plan.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
Out over my skis.
That passes.
Now, move the first reading of ordinance 2026-26.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
Did that build your confidence in me next time? Okay.
We'll try not to have any public. That passes. Moving on to item 7.5, which is a public hearing to consider the ESA Hotel amendment to the comprehensive plan and amendment to the Plan Unit Development Master Plan at 3940 114th Street. The public notice for this was published in also the April 21, 2026 Des Moines Register, and any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And Rose, before I let you start, I'm just gonna lay some ground rules tonight. So I know there are a number of folks that believe they're here for this tonight. So as you've seen a number of the public hearings that we've done, Rose again will provide some opening comments. The council will have an opportunity to ask her any questions that they have of this. And then I'll open up for public comments, just like I've done for the other ones. For this one, I assume that we're gonna have some folks that wanna speak on this tonight, so I will allow the applicant to first speak and provide a presentation. Then we'll ask for any other comments, and then the applicant will have one last opportunity to present before we would close the public hearing. Just keep in mind that, keep your comments, please, to 5 minutes apiece. There are standards of participation that are in back if you need to read that, but please keep your comments to 5 minutes apiece. So with that, Rose, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Mayor and Council. I've made a couple of slides here just as talking points. So the request in front of you this evening is really to accomplish two things. One is to amend the future land use on the comprehensive plan from its current designation as office business park to a mixed residential designation. The second is to actually amend the existing extended stay America PUD amendment. And within the context of that amendment, there really are three changes proposed by the applicant. One is related to the use. So we will discuss each of these in a little more detail, but to add multifamily with supportive services as a permitted use in that in the existing PUD. The second, related to that project, if that use were permitted, is to reduce what the city's minimum parking requirements would be. And the third is that there are a couple potential units in the existing hotel that would be less than our minimum square footage for a unit at the moment. So we'll walk through these here a little bit, if I can make it work. So I'm sure everyone is well aware of where this is located, but just for some orientation, the interstate, Douglas and 114th Street, the existing extended stay hotel is shown here in red. So to start with the first part of the request, which really is needs to be the first part of the request, because if the land use in general is not appropriate, then they're really then the request for a PUD amendment changes significantly. So what I've got for you on the screen is a screenshot of the future land use map of the comprehensive plan that is in effect today. The subject property here, I've just got a dot drawn on. So right here at the base of the interstate, this would be the side street. Here is Douglas, and of course the interstate. So it's designated as office and business park, which is what's shown here in red, or excuse me, in blue. This larger area here happens to be the post office distribution, so it carries a different designation. Of course, red in general are commercial. Yellows and oranges are residential. So that just is in that general vicinity of the intersection, that is the type of land use we have designated. Little bit of background on the property, just quickly. So in a previous version of the comprehensive plan, the 1988 version, the subject property was also designated as office park. In 1998 is when there was a rezoning, a zoning map amendment done. So previously the site of the hotel, before it had a hotel, was also zoned CP, Planned Commerce Park, which is what the property immediately to the east of the property is zoned still today. So there was a zoning map amendment to rezone that property from Planned Commerce Park to a PUD, and that was specifically for the Extended Stay America Hotel Master Plan. So that was the change. There have not been subsequent changes to that property. And so following those changes, also in 1998, the site plan was approved for the actual hotel at that site. So again, just a little bit of proximity. You've got CP Planned Commerce Park located to the east. You've got M2 uses in kind of the business park. This is the post office distribution that I referenced earlier. You've got PUD across the street. You do have a bit of multifamily residential east on Douglas there.
Across the street is across the interstate.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. Like, so this would be the travel center. Yeah, the big street, the big wide street. Sorry about that. So a couple things I just like to remember and kind of restate whenever we're thinking about changes to the comprehensive plan. I always just like to remind that, you know, the comprehensive plan is a policy document. It's a policy document that the city council enacts. It is not a static document, even though it is for the long-term vision of the community. So in other words, if circumstances changes, if things are happening in the world, absolutely the comp plan can be amended. It often is. The shelf life of many comp plans we think of as in the 10-year time frame. So just want to set the stage for the comp plan and future land use designation is not the same thing as zoning, which I know all of you know perfectly well, but for the benefit of all those that may be here. So again, we touched on this when I was showing the map, but the subject property is designated as office business park, and our comprehensive plan says that that's intended to provide just what you think it would, environment and places for professional employment centers, office uses, and the like. We also already talked briefly about the surrounding zoning, but the one thing I did want to mention is our comprehensive plan sets out, you know, a framework for residential development, and we use neighborhood nodes, and that isn't a perfectly prescribed thing, but it talks about how residential uses can be a mix of uses, but they should be in places where there's goods and services available, where there are other types of amenities that you might expect in a more of a neighborhood environment, recreation, and the like. So all that to be said, just thinking about the proximity of this particular property to some of those things for your consideration. Also, one of the things that we often think about more in terms of zoning when we're thinking particularly about more dense development, multifamily development, Although it's certainly not a requirement, we think about what's the transportation network? Is there public transportation around? It doesn't mean there has to be in order for there to be multifamily, but it is one of the things that we think about. This particular property will not be serviced by a fixed route by DART, but it is going to be located within one of the new DART on demand zones that will roll out here a little later in the year. That includes parts of Urbandale and Clive. So before we move on to kind of the second part, and I know it's in your staff report there, but do just want to make it clear that staff is not supporting the comprehensive plan amendment. We are recommending denial of that request. The Planning and Zoning Commission at their April 13th meeting did recommend approval by a 5-2 vote. So just before we move on to the PUD amendment, that is where we stand on that. Now, the second part, again, to amend the actual extended stay hotel PUD master plan. They've requested, again, to add the use, the multifamily use with the supportive services, to reduce our minimum parking requirements, which today would be 1 space per efficiency apartment unit. You all know that about a year-ish ago, maybe more, we did reduce some of our parking requirements. So that 1 space per stall does represent that reduction. They have asked for 0.5 parking spaces per stall. They have submitted some information from other parts of the country that support the idea that supportive housing generally does not generate as many vehicles and parking. They also will be providing bicycle parking on site, although our current code doesn't have a provision for considering kind of that in lieu of at any ratio, but just want to point that out. The proposed project does include, of course, conversion of the existing hotel into 104 studio residential units. And it is proposing a 2-story, in total 10,000 square foot addition. So the floor plate of each is 5,000. That's connected to the existing hotel building. And then the space, and we'll look at the site concept plan here in a minute, but then some outdoor courtyard type space immediately adjacent to the building. That will make more sense when we look at the site here. The proposed building addition won't include any additional living units, but that is where the supportive services would be provided. So those are things like office space, commercial kitchen, food pantry, media center, adult classrooms. That's where those type of functions would occur on the site. I do also just want to point out that the applicant's letter, and this is a question that staff asked early on, those services that would be provided on site are for the residents of the proposed project. So that's not open and available to serve others, only for that project. So here is, in fact, the master plan amendment that was requested. I know you can't see that well, so I will go to the next slide. So again, just for orientation, the interstate is here. Douglas would be on the left side of the screen. 114th Street is shown here at the bottom of the page. The existing hotel building, 3-story building, is shown here in green, and the proposed 2-story addition is shown here. You'll also, it may be a bit hard to see on this, they do show a fence that would enclose kind of this courtyard area, so extending from the new proposed building addition, and there's a gate here, and extending here over to the existing building. So this is kind of all outdoor courtyard space. Showing parking surrounding here, dumpster enclosure, showing bike parking. The one thing I would also just add, though, to be clear, we are not reviewing a site plan tonight. So this is a concept plan, so it's not going to have of the details that you would normally see in a site plan approval. So some things to think about this evening is that, oh, and I also should indicate that staff is also recommending denial of the PUD amendment because we did not support the comp plan amendment. Planning Commission, however, though, again, did recommend approval on a 5-2 vote at their meeting in April. So some things to think about for this evening. The comp plan amendment really should come first, right? If the land use is not appropriate for that, then there's not a lot of, in my professional opinion, a lot of additional conversation to happen about a PUD amendment. So please know they are two separate things. Another thing you, I'm sure, noted, and I outlined it here in the staff report, is that if a PUD amendment is considered, please know that staff did not provide a draft ordinance. And this is a substantial modification to PUD master plan, so it does require an ordinance and those 3 readings. So if there is conversation following the public hearing about that, staff would need some guidance on what else should be addressed in the ordinance, because this is a bit different in that the existing PUD master plan did not address any commercial use of any kind. So other sections of the PUD amendment that were not specifically requested by the applicant likely still need to be adjusted from the totally commercial nature of the existing plan. I'll also defer here in the end to Maria if she had anything she wanted to add on that. And the last thing I will note, which was also included in the staff report, is that the city has formally received a written protest. That means that we have received opposition signed by owners that represent at least 20% of the property that's located within 200 feet of that requested change. So what that does, both by state code as well as our local ordinance, is that a change could only be effected upon a favorable vote of 3/4 of the makeup of your council. So be aware of that in any, and that would relate to the PUD amendment. That does not relate to the comprehensive plan amendment. That is all I have this evening. I will say, as you are aware, because there are several attached to the agenda item, the city has received many letters and emails in support of the request, as well as letters of opposition. And even this evening, as late as about 5 o'clock, we were still getting a couple other items. So you have a few new things that were sitting at the dais that would not have been in the packet when it went out and was made public.
Rose, did we receive any more than the two letters in opposition?
We have received letters of opposition from 2. We have received them on 2 different occasions. We received letters prior to Planning and Zoning Commission, and we received from the same entities prior to council, but a new letter. And then we received the written protest petition, which was signed by 3 property owners. You might recall, I'll just pull it up.
And can you remind me how many property owners are around this property?
Let me grab the file and I can tell you how many we notified, but we received signatures on that written protest from the property owner to the north, to the east, and then you might recall there's a single family house here. We did also receive a signature representing the ownership of that property. The one just distinction I will make related to that is, please recall that the city's notification is 200 feet exclusive of right-of-way. So our 200 feet notification jumps all the way on the other side of the interstate right-of-way, whereas the statute for the protest petition is literally the space within 200 feet of the actual parcel. So we actually notify by our ordinance a larger area. It's, even though they're both used 200 feet, it's not calculated the same.
Thank you for that clarification.
Especially here.
I have a quick question, just kind of on the last slide that you had. So you note here, if the requested PUD amendment is considered, that there's additional factors that should be considered. Is that in the event that it's considered, you're saying, like, just talked through, there needs to be additional things discussed, period? I'm assuming.
In my opinion, and just to be very plain about it, so the existing PUD document, again, doesn't talk anything about residential uses, right? So there's nothing about what kind of signage might be allowed, what kind of building materials if they construct something new. So the marked up version that was included as an attachment took the existing PUD master plan from 1998 and simply added their 3 requests in it. And as you look through that, you might see that there are other sections that, for consistency, probably should be updated as well, in our opinion. So that's just to say that if that occurs, there is probably some other work to be done.
And is that a situation where you would amend the amendment, or you just say, let's take this back and make sure that we get a finished product first? I guess that's where I'm kind of curious.
Procedurally?
Yeah.
So I'll defer to Marie on this, but I think there's a couple things. Today is a public hearing. We're in public hearing right now. So there is no ordinance in front of you, so there's no reading of an ordinance tonight, but ultimately there would need to be 3 readings of an ordinance. So if that is the case following hearing, you could close the public hearing and direct staff to do whatever you see fit to direct staff to do, and we would have to set, of course, another public hearing. It may also be possible to continue the public hearing and not close it tonight and still provide staff the same direction. I'll defer to city attorney on that, but either way, at some point if it is approved, there will need to be an ordinance drafted.
So the ordinance would be to approve the amendment in its entirety with
Correct.
all of the different, gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
That helps clarify in my head there.
Okay, any further questions for Rose at this point?
Yeah, I'm still a little bit needing some clarification. So what we're considering tonight is, with respect to the PUD amendment, is really conceptual. I mean, that we're considering whether or not conceptually we should accept or reject what the applicant is requesting. And if we decide to accept, then it would go to the ordinance drafting phase and come back to us?
Essentially, so tonight, you really do have a request in front of you for a PUD amendment, and you're holding that public hearing, so you're taking that comment. You could not act on the PUD amendment tonight in such, meaning whether to approve or deny the PUD amendment. You would just be holding the public hearing this evening. But it is a very specific, and it was a complete request that was submitted to us. So the request from the applicant is to add the permitted use, to reduce parking, and to reduce the dwelling unit size. Staff did not prepare an ordinance, as staff wasn't recommending it, and we do believe there are other things that should happen if there is to be an ordinance.
So if this were to be approved, would Greater Des Moines Supportive Housing have what they need to move forward with the project?
I'll
No.
defer to Maria.
No. So they would have to come back with another revision to the PUD.
Go ahead.
It really depends on what council's action is. So at this public hearing, council is considering the proposal before you to amend first to consider an amendment to the comprehensive plan, and then to consider the substantive amendments. If council feels it needs further information before making a determination on the amendment, council would want to continue this public hearing and intake that information that's so directed to staff to collect and present so that there can be further consideration.
If not, if council doesn't feel there is any need for further information on the amendment itself, the public hearing would be closed, and council has 3 options: to approve the petition and master plan, to disapprove the petition and master plan, or require changes as may deem necessary to effectuate the intent and purpose of the zoning code. That action in of itself, though, will not be final action. There will still need to be a second public hearing involving the ordinance. The ordinance is going to actually include all of council's findings of fact that are necessary to support the amendment that council intends to approve. I don't know if that answers the question or creates more questions.
Yeah, the findings of fact have to be made at the ordinance stage.
Correct.
Okay.
It could be discussed at this public hearing, certainly, and that would certainly shed light. If that is the direction that this council is intending to go, that would certainly, staff and legal counsel would need that direction to provide the ordinance that council expects to consider at the next public hearing.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Substantively tonight, the comprehensive plan amendment is really the only actionable item that can be taken regardless of the decision made, right? Like, the comprehensive plan would need to be either amended or denied. And if it were amended, there'd need to be additional work to actually do the zoning change itself. If I'm understanding correctly.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
So we wouldn't take action on the amendment to the PUD plan tonight then, necessarily.
Again, I mean, if you feel you have enough information to approve with direction, you certainly could, but that isn't going to be final approval because it'll require 2 approvals, correct?
Yeah.
So, but if you choose not to take action and simply to make a motion to direct staff and legal counsel to take additional actions, then that would be your action. It just wouldn't be final action. So again, then your final action, which is what I referenced before from the ordinance language, would take place at a future meeting whereupon you act upon a formal ordinance.
Okay.
Rose, I've got another question. How does the current use of the extended stay America fit into the office/business classification of the comprehensive plan? Does that fit?
I'm not sure that I could say it explicitly fits, but the designation of the commercial area certainly would include, you would expect to include highway uses, but the zoning and the comp plan aren't a one-to-one in terms of uses, of course. The comprehensive plan being broader. I can only tell you that at the time the PUD amendment occurred in 1998, that was the designation already in place. And there did not appear to be a change to the comp plan except for in the 1988 version. So I can't explain the why, just that is what occurred.
Thanks.
Do I recall correctly that you said there was a single family residence across the street? I guess I wasn't aware of that.
There is an existing structure. I don't know if I'll get zoomed in close enough. So here's the hotel, and there's an existing parcel there.
And that is zoned commerce. I forget the CP.
Right.
Commerce.
Yep. All of this is zoned that. This is it. The extended stay hotel is a 1-lot PUD. Mm-hmm. It doesn't exist beyond that.
Gotcha. Okay. This may be a question for the applicant. So if we do need to defer it, I guess it's probably partially us, partially the applicant. You mentioned, so the minimum square footage is 320 square feet,
mm-hmm.
definitively like a studio efficiency.
That is a reference out of our code section, which applies in part to people living in other types of living units. To be honest, RVs, some
mm-hmm.
of those kinds of things, because if you read the whole section, it talks about being parked and some other things. We actually advised the applicant when we were made aware that there are some rooms that may be less than that to address it now on the front end in their request. I will defer to the applicant, but I also want to be clear that it is not my understanding that every room which would become a unit in there needs that reduction. I believe there were a couple that weren't going to meet that threshold, but again, I'll defer to the applicant.
Yeah, because I'd be curious about like what the balance is of like how many are at or above 320 versus below 320. For multifamily parking, like, because we had said we had reduced that to one, was that one per unit?
In this case, it would be.
And when we consider that from a multifamily unit size and like occupancy perspective, like what is the average like unit occupancy that we're thinking about when we talk about that?
I don't know that the city's code contemplates directly the occupancy. Our parking standards are called out by number of bedrooms.
Gotcha.
In this particular case, based on information from the applicant, these are intended to be one person, one room efficiencies. And the other thing I would just add related to parking is that we do have a provision in our code that can defer parking for future construction. So specifically, the parking question, if it is the desire of the council, you know, it could be shown how additional parking could be made to fit elsewhere on the site, and it could be deferred if to such time it ever would be needed. So we do have some provisions on how to delay some parking.
Gotcha.
All right, any further questions for Rose at this point from the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Again, as I mentioned, we will accept comments from the public. I'll recognize the applicant first. Again, if after that, then please wait till I recognize you, and then you come up to the podium and give your name and address and provide your comments, no longer than 5 minutes. So first, I'll recognize the applicant to come up. So.
Hi, I'm Emily Osweiler. My home address is 9015 Cowden Drive in Johnston. Thank you for the opportunity to present. I'm the CEO of Greater Des Moines Supportive Housing and a master's level social worker. I've spent the past 2+ decades working in this space. The requests tonight are often routine, but we know that what makes this different is our use. We want our potential neighbors and the city of Urbandale to understand our model and our safeguards. We hope that this idea will be worthy of people's support and be an organization that the city is proud to house. To help you make a determination, I would like to provide you with some information for your consideration. Greater Des Moines Supportive Housing has been working towards the goal of creating new units of permanent and affordable housing plus on-site services. The closest thing we have as an example is the YMCA Supportive Housing Campus, which is where I spent the bulk of my resume. I was there before its inception and got to be a part of all aspects of its creation, development, and operations. It has 140 units, and they have been full with a wait list of over 100 people since it opened in 2011. And if you haven't heard of it, it's because it's quietly doing what supportive housing is supposed to do. They have had highly successful outcomes. When I was there, 65% of residents were employed. The other 35% were retired, actively looking for work, or on disability. 90% increased and maintained their income over the first year, and everyone had a case manager. It has a diverse population, which is what creates community and makes it neighbors in a home. There's a large demographic of people in need of affordable housing, including veterans and seniors, our fastest growing population. There is a documented need for this type of housing, as you can see from the letters shared on our behalf from Homeward, the Polk County Housing Trust Fund, the Community Foundation of Greater Des Moines, and United Way of Central Iowa. While our community's housing continuum has great providers working in this space, we will address a gap in services. All the organizations working in this space are needed, but it is just as important for you to know what we are not as what we are promising to do. We are not a shelter. We are not a recovery program. We are not transitional or transient in any way. People will not just be dropped off to stay. There will be a process and a wait list. We are not public housing. We are not a public community center where people who don't live with us will be coming and going. Let me tell you what we are. We are supportive housing. What does that mean? Housing, permanent, no time limit housing. People will sign a lease, pay rent, and build a rental history. They will have their own private studio apartment with a deadbolt and a peephole. Apartments will be furnished and include a bathroom and kitchenette. Our Urbandale location would have 104 studio apartments, single room occupancy, so 104 residents, plus supports. We will have on-site and wraparound supportive services available to all residents. These will include case management, rental assistance, transportation assistance, a pantry for food, clothes, hygiene, and household items, and groups and classes for job training, financial literacy, life skills, and more. We look forward to many partnerships that will all be a part of providing these services. We're creating a healing space that fosters connections, purpose, and wellness. Each aspect of our design is intentional. Yes, everyone will have their own private apartment, but we will also have community spaces, supportive service spaces, and green spaces. We're calling those our heart spaces. The heart spaces are the secret sauce. We're not just building housing, we're building supportive housing. The addition is crucial to our model. Our campus will have security features, including 24/7 staff and/or security, restricted access, and cameras. It will be a dry campus with a no weapons policy. People who have felony convictions and violence against another person will not pass our background check. We will participate in the crime-free multi-housing program that many apartments are also certified in. It's a 3-phase certification program that helps landlords, tenants, and police officers work together to keep multifamily housing communities safe and crime-free. It includes ongoing training and requirements for the building, the staff, and the community. This is in partnership with the police department. We'll have a dynamic and active management team that is committed to resident success, communication, transparency, dependability, and being a good neighbor as part of a greater community. We have a comprehensive staffing plan which will include highly skilled and trained professionals. People will come to us with a variety of needs. They will complete an application and a background check. There will be an intake and a qualification process. When a unit is available and they sign their lease, they will immediately meet their case manager. Residents will likely stay an average of 18 months, with some only living with us for one lease and some staying for a very long time. Oh, I have some pictures. Let me see here. Sorry, I missed my... Okay, so this is the addition, you can see, which becomes the new welcoming entryway, and that is the Heart Space building, so where all the community spaces, supportive service spaces will be. This is a unit. So you can see furnished, the room with the teal there is the bathroom. There's a kitchenette there where the person is. This is inside the Heart Space building. So first floor, community spaces, dining, living space. And then you can see the second floor there would be classrooms, case management offices. And it opens out into the courtyard, so this is a view from the courtyard. You can kind of see how the building attaches there to the existing building. I understand that when something like this is discussed, people have concerns. I've also found that a candid conversation about who we will serve and how we will serve them dissipates most fears. I've reached out to the prospective neighbors with some information about our organization and my contact, and I'm happy to chat with anyone at any time. I would like to address some of the concerns from the letters of opposition. As far as parking, we have allotted more parking spaces than we believe we will need. Very few of our residents will have cars, many will have bikes, and we are planning for that. As far as lack of parks and green spaces has been a part of our plan all along. It's important to us, and we're creating a beautiful courtyard that is almost 7,500 square feet with areas for socialization, recreation, and reflection. It will include community garden beds, an outdoor shelter for gathering, a walking loop, open lawn spaces for games, a covered patio, barbecue grills, benches, and reflection nodes. As far as transportation, I've had several conversations with DART, and you've received a document they created for us regarding DART on-demand service that will cover the site starting this September. Paratransit will also be another option for many of our residents. As far as location, being located within a business park allows for several nearby job opportunities on both the eastern and western sides of the interstate, and they are indeed walkable. There is safe pedestrian and bike access into and out of the site and a crosswalk across Douglas. There is a sidewalk directly next to the site that spans the entirety of 114th Street from Douglas to Meredith and also across the interstate on Douglas. You can take the sidewalk all the way from the site to Target, which is a grocery store too, in a 7-minute bike ride. I also saw that there have been some recommended stipulations that could become part of the PUD if this were to move forward, most of which have been a part of our plan all along. We're open to that conversation and have internally discussed a possible good neighbor agreement that could be something we could put together for both of our sites. This would include creating a committee of neighborhood stakeholders and having regular communications. In closing, I would like to reference back to the Y project that I spoke about at the beginning, and a testimonial and letter of support from the closest neighbor to that project, Don Short, the owner of West End Architectural Salvage. The Y and West End are neighbors on the very same block, literally in his backyard. West End was already there when the Y planned to develop, and Don had concerns. His experience is that all his concerns were unfounded, and he has grown to be a supporter, a donor, and a friend of the Y and their residents. He has hired, celebrated with, and gotten to know many of the residents. He gets it. He knows this model works. We urge you to read the letter in its entirety, but I want to share one quote. I would readily admit that I was not the most enthusiastic supporter of the Y moving in next door prior to the development starting, but I will just as easily admit that I was wrong. The staff at the Y, including Emily Osweiler, the leader at the Y and now leading the Greater Des Moines Supportive Housing effort, has the knowledge and experience to successfully implement this proposed development and housing model and will make the proposed campus equally as successful as my neighbor downtown. I would add, Don has been a neighbor to the Y for a long time, 15 years. Plus his business extends from the 4 walls he has, and he has items outside and events on weekends and in the evenings. Don is the only person who has real-world experience being a neighbor to this kind of housing. Everyone else is just guessing. In the end, we all want the same thing. We want a safe home to live in, a community to belong to, and a job or volunteer opportunity that brings purpose to our lives. We want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves, to feel safe and to be healthy. We want belonging, wellness, and home for ourselves and for our neighbors. Thank you so much for your consideration and your time. I have several members of our team here, and we are ready for any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you, Emily. Any questions for Emily from the council at this point?
Yeah, Emily, you talked a little bit about a good neighbor agreement or other types of stipulations. Are you open to other types of potential, what I'm going to call enforcement mechanisms, things that we might be able to develop to provide assurance that the promises you're making can be enforced?
Absolutely.
Specifically talking about some of the things that were, like I was asking about unit size, with how many of those units, like rough percentage, like fall under the 320 versus like over the 320 square feet?
We were doing a quick look. Was it 4 we thought? Maybe 4? I don't have it in front of me, so we could get back to you on that. But it's not all of them. It was just enough that we needed to request that because there would be some
so
below.
You're saying there's 4 approximately
that would be under.
That would be under 320?
I think, yes.
Okay.
Emily, can you talk a little bit about your tenant selection plan? You mentioned a couple of key points, but what does that really look like?
Right. The tenant selection plan is how people will know if they're eligible to live with us and move in. So it will cover things, and I sent a draft. It will cover things like the background check, a preference if somebody has preferences. I'm trying to think. It's basically what would tell someone that they would be a fit in the community. There will be a code of conduct, how long the lease would be, single room occupancy.
Felony charges allowed?
Right, so we'll have a third-party vendor run our background checks, and the parameters will be set in there that there are certain, if, violence against another person, homicide, sexual assault, kidnapping, some of those you wouldn't pass. Some charges you may not pass for a while. And we have it drafted. And so what would happen is that background check would just come back denied. And if someone had an issue with that, they would take that up with the third-party background check. They'd have to go through an appeal process.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, Emily, you might have said this, single adults, just single adults?
Yes.
No children?
You have to be 18 to sign a lease, so.
When the YMCA location opened and currently, is there like something you have in place with like a communication plan and sorts with the neighbors too to kind of help escalate any concerns if there were any or situations that might evolve?
We didn't when I was there. I can't speak to if they have one now. I've been gone 5 years. So I'm not sure, but this is something that we've been looking at. I know that Des Moines has some agreements like that with different apartments. So we have a template that we've been looking at and open to suggestions there.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick one to better understand the impacts. After 18 months, what happens? Where do they go when they leave? Are they graduating essentially?
Great question. So 18 months is the average. It's permanent housing, so people could stay forever. And there will be some people that need that level of support and stability to find success, and it's where things are going well for them. Some people may use it as a stepping stone. They may use it transitionally, even though there is no time limit. And they will move on to their, whatever the next step is for them. So we'll be everyone will have a case plan. We'll be working with people on their goals. We won't be trying to push people out if they're not ready, but we will be trying to set some things in place for if they are ready. We want to help them take that step because we'll have a wait list of people that will need the support as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Anything further?
Yeah, Emily, what's the connection between this proposal and the West Des Moines proposal?
So we have both properties under one contract. We are working through both city processes at the same time, and they look a little different. And so they are connected in that it's both or nothing right now. We do have them under contract. Mm-hmm.
What would be the proposed unit amount for the West Des Moines project?
It's 89 units.
Okay.
And we would have the same addition that we would be adding there as well.
So this would get pretty close to 200 units. And what was there was various references to like shortages in supportive housing units across Polk County. What does that look like with this compared to that number?
Yeah. So this is one solution to two kind of escalating crises, both the homeless situation and also the lack of affordable housing crisis. And so, there have been some studies lately, and I think there are people here who are going to speak to those, but we know that we need 540 units of permanent supportive housing in Polk County. And we know that we need 12,000 units of extremely low-income, affordable apartments. So this is 200 units towards kind of both of those.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We're short like $20 million worth of investment in Polk County in affordable housing and homeless services. Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
Could you speak to kind of the funding structure of how this would operate and like what does financing look like for not only just getting the project finished, but then also maintaining it going forward.
Sure, and I also have, one of my board members is going to kind of talk about that when he comes up and talks, but, you know, we're looking at a private capital campaign that we've done a capital campaign feasibility study, and so we are taking the steps to move that forward very soon. So that would consist of private and public funds. We're applying for grants. There will be a small amount of debt on the properties. Is that kind of what you're looking for as far as?
Yeah, and just trying to, I think kind of the core of my question is just like the sustainability of the model, right? Just because I think there might be some concern out there of like, let's say this project goes forward, it gets done, 3 years later, there's not money left, and then what, right?
Right.
So I think that's kind of the core of my question is trying to figure out what does that sustainable financing look like for running the operation?
So, sure.
Well,
It
All right.
is,
No, I understand, Jim, but that's fine. What you think about,
or I can give a brief and then he can come.
if you can do it briefly, then I'm going to allow, I want to go back and forth between, you know, we do have some opponents here tonight, so I want to have you wrap up your comments.
Okay.
I'm going to allow, we're going to go back and forth between opponents and proponents. Then
Okay.
you'll have one last shot at the end, so.
Okay.
If you can wrap up. kind of
Okay, well,
sum
we
up
are
right
working
now.
on a pro forma out 30 years. You know, that is the piece that I know how to do. I'm not a developer, but I'm anxious to get back into direct operations. So I have run something very similar to this for 10 years, and it was in the black. So, you know, rent, annual campaign, grants, those are the things that will make up the revenue. And so we are looking at that, and we do have plans in place.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything? Thank you, Emily.
Okay.
Jim, I promise you'll get your comments in before we're done here, so. I will recognize, and if there's an opponent that would like to speak now, I'll recognize an opponent to the rezoning, so.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight. Adam Caduce, R&R Realty Group, 1080 Jordan Creek Parkway, West Des Moines, Iowa. First, I want to start with appreciate the process that the city's followed through this. We've had an opportunity to not only meet with the applicant, but the city staff, attend the different meetings, and visit with some members of the council and the mayor and express our concerns. Tonight, what's before you is not a question on whether we need more supportive housing in Des Moines or Urbandale. If that were the question before you, we would all raise our hands. There's no disagreement that we need more housing affordability at all price points, and we need it in all of our communities. Certain communities shouldn't have to share all of the burden. What we're concerned about is whether this is the best use of this site and whether this puts residents in a safe community that they're going to be in at this location. My colleague Jeremy will speak a little later on some of the concerns we have with some of the access and concerns. I want to speak specifically about some of the conflicting property types. I work with a lot of the customers that are in this area. Many of them have trucks and semis that deliver goods and products to their businesses, as well as there's high commute traffic to this area with a lot of corporate users. By introducing more residential residents that are going to be there during the day, that are going to be traversing the sidewalks, and we all know sometimes people wander off of sidewalks or wander outside of courtyards and take advantage of the space in the area, and that may create issues with conflict for traffic and trucks. This area wasn't designed to have that kind of conflict between residential and commercial. Also, this area wasn't developed with greenland spaces like community residential areas are. When residential is developed, parkland is taken into account. The green space that's in this area supports stormwater detention, supports daytime worker population, but is not meant to be used as recreation. It's private property, not parkland, like you would see as a part of residential developments. The other concerns are around the operations. R&R Realty Group has developed tax credit housing. We know the special touch that's required to be able to bring people through a bureaucratic process and get them into a home. This is going to be 2 ground-up projects happening at once in 2 different communities, and there's nothing in the PUD amendments that's in front of you that will maintain the level of service that's been committed to. I hope you can appreciate the perspective we're bringing, having had two projects, two residential hotels in this area, both get so deteriorated that they literally had to be torn down. There were two hotels, the Econo Lodge and a property across the street, that caused a lot of headaches in this building for city staff and law enforcement for years before they had to be condemned because they didn't meet basic standards of our building codes. Law enforcement was there, and as neighbors, we dealt with the consequences. And unfortunately, there just wasn't much the city could do until those properties got so bad that they literally had to be torn down. In the PUD amendments in front of you, there's no commitment to the standards. The applicant has shared a high standard that they're going to operate in, but in front of you, there is nothing to hold that standard. We're going to be neighbors for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years. And we've seen two projects in this area deteriorate. So I hope you can appreciate our concern about wanting to make sure that there is a standard that this is going to operate to. Not even the applicant's standard is before you tonight. This is just simply just not a very comprehensive process in terms of bringing this in front of you with a standard that is non-existent. That's our concern tonight. We appreciate you hearing from us and appreciate your time on this matter.
All right, thank you, Adam. Jim, do you want to go next? I'll recognize you. Somebody.
Good evening, Mayor, Urbandale City Council members. My name is Doug Romig. I'm the Executive Director of the Housing Solutions Alliance, 1910 Grand Avenue, Des Moines. And I'm here to speak in support of this. Through the blueprint to address homelessness in Polk County, as has been indicated, we are significantly short of affordable housing and permanent supportive housing. Through our regional process, we did a prioritization with all of our service providers to identify the most critical needs, and permanent supportive housing was identified as the #1 need to address out of the 28 strategies within the blueprint. The other piece is I was in government, city and county government for 35 years of my career. And I've seen tons of comprehensive plans, but I've never seen a comprehensive plan that shows where affordable housing should be. It's generic, it's ambitious, and it's let's identify and provide all different housing types at all different price points. But when you get to looking at specific locations, no matter whether it's in residential, commercial, business, there's always opposition. At some point, somebody's got to step up and say, yes, this is an appropriate location. We can meet this need to serve our most vulnerable residents. And it is a place of choice. People are not going to be forced to live here. They will choose whether this is the right location for them, and they will know all the elements that exist around them. They'll know traffic and transportation issues. They'll know the grocery store issues. They'll know the closest park. They're not being forced to live here. They're going to choose to live here because of what Emily and her team can provide through their support services at this campus and at West Des Moines. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Doug. All right, I'll recognize, is there somebody who wants to oppose? Jeremy?
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council members. Jeremy Shepard, with R&R Realty, 1080 Jordan Creek Parkway here in West Des Moines. Keep my comments brief, but I also want to note that I agree with the concern that Adam expressed earlier. Everyone in this room agrees that this is a worthwhile cause. There's a real social need here, and no one is arguing otherwise. The question before you tonight isn't whether this is a good mission, it is whether this location is the right fit. And as you make the decision tonight, you're weighing two things: the facts in front of you and the emotional pull of that mission. Both matter, but land use decisions have to be grounded in what works. From a zoning and planning perspective, we need to look at the facts. Your own city staff, who understand Urbandale's land use, infrastructure, and long-term planning better than anyone, has recommended denial of this application. That should carry significant weight. The vast majority of the proponents' discussions tonight will focus on the importance of the social need. And again, we all agree with that. But there has been very little explanation of why the specific location is strong for this type of project. As mentioned, limited nearby amenities, especially grocery stores and food options, no meaningful public transportation, surrounded by industrial and office properties. Those are real constraints. There are also some counterintuitive aspects of this proposal. For example, reducing parking ratios in a location that lacks walkability to nearby amenities with short distances and limited transit access doesn't align with how people will realistically need to live and commute in this area. I'd also like to show you briefly how this site compares to the proposed location in West Des Moines. This site is also adjacent to R&R property, and in contrast to the Urbandale location, we consider this a good spot for this use. Right? Perfect. So the location in West Des Moines is represented here in orange at the intersection of 28th and Westtown Parkway. And as you'll notice, we've indicated the land uses specifically at this location. The red represents the commercial retail, blue represents the office, green represents multifamily, and you can see the bus routes. Actually, this location has 3 bus routes that intersect right at this corner. So this is a much different location than the Urbandale location. We have access to Hy-Vee to the west of Valley West Mall, the Fresh Time grocery store immediately to the north. So a lot different than what we're looking at in Urbandale. In fact, I believe that this is a better representation and closer in line with the YMCA location downtown. To contrast this, this is the location in Urbandale. Once again, in blue, we have the office. Orange is the location. And in yellow, we have industrial uses. And as you notice, the commercial retail is far from this location. We are at the corner of Interstate. It is not a suitable location. Bus stops and bus routes are really non-existent at this point. And the closest grocery store is Hy-Vee at 86th Street. We also have concerns about the execution here. This will be the applicant's first project of this kind. Even a single development like this is a significant undertaking. Taking on 1, let alone 2 projects introduces additional uncertainty. And placing that effort in a location that already presents challenges only increases the risk of a poor outcome. So in closing, if I were in your shoes, and I would frame this decision around 2 primary considerations. First, is this location truly the right fit? And if it is, where is the clear evidence-based case for that? Identifying an available building for purchase is one thing, but choosing a location that sets a project up for long-term success is something else entirely. The council has successfully partnered with nonprofits on similar initiatives before, and I would encourage you to continue doing that, but in locations that better support that mission. Second, if this were not a supportive housing proposal, would the spa rezoning be approved for a typical multifamily project proposed by a developer? Based on the staff's recommendation and the surrounding land uses, that seems unlikely. And that's a very important lens to apply here. This is a meaningful decision. Supporting the mission and making a sound land use decision are not mutually exclusive, but they do require the right location. Thank you for your time and consideration.
All right, thank you, Jeremy.
Yep.
All right, is there a proponent? Angie? Sure.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to have this conversation. My name is Angie Arthur. I'm Executive Director of Homeward. My address is 1009 45th Street in West Des Moines. Homeward is the regional homeless planning organization for Polk County, and we worked in partnership with the community to create the blueprint to address homelessness. And the board itself, or Homeward, has reviewed this project and has voted to be in support of the overall project, with my ability to share that here and also the letter that we have submitted. I think an important thing to note is, and it's been discussed tonight, but again, to talk about the need in our community and in the county and really across the state of Iowa. 26% of renters in the state of Iowa are extremely low income individuals. For a single individual in this category here, that's around $23,000 for the person. There are over 101 100,000 households in our community. So if you think about that, we would need 4 Jack Trice stadiums to be able to fill up with all the people that are extremely low income in our communities across the state of Iowa. 36% of those folks are in the labor force. 30% are seniors. 19% are folks with disabilities. 4% are students. And there are 3% that are single caregivers. And then the remainder of 9% are various other categories. So you can see those are our neighbors. Those are community members that we have within there. And so those are the folks that we would really need to be able to, and that'll be supported by this project. For every 100 households for extremely low income individuals, there are currently 39 affordable and accessible units. So if you're one of those 100 households that you're looking for a place, that's in the state of Iowa. In Polk County, unfortunately, it goes down further, where for every 100 households that are looking for a place to live, we have 21 affordable and accessible units. So you can see the value of this is very important. I think also important to put into context, particularly where we're talking about individuals with a disability. For folks that are maybe receiving Social Security insurance, their monthly payment is $994 a month. That's the benefit that they receive. And when you're putting that in comparison to the efficiency apartments in what the fair market rent would be for HUD's definition in zip code 50322, that rate is $1,070. That's what they expect from a rental perspective. So I want to highlight the need for this, as well as I think the need that we have as communities across the state, but also across the county, is that we need to think creatively for our solutions. And so sometimes that means that we need to look at maybe solutions in areas that we wouldn't normally think about, but what are those going to be, and how can we effectively and safely do that? And what are those experiences that we have of community members and organizations to be able to move forward and move those through. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of context from that perspective. And as I shared earlier, we are in support of this project, as well as the project in West Des Moines. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there an opponent that would like to speak?
I guess we'll let the proponents go, and we'll be the second to last, if the council doesn't mind.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Okay, all right. I assume you're from Continental Western? Are you from Continental Western from Berkeley? Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to speak at this time?
My name is Jeremy Harder, 932 35th Street in Des Moines, Iowa. I didn't realize we could do our office address. That would have been nice, and I don't know it by heart, so I wish I could have done that.
Just a reasonable identification is all we ask for.
Okay,
so.
okay. I just thought we were telling everybody where we lived, you know. You're welcome after this for dinner. First, I want to thank you guys for being here. I'm not sure why any of you signed up for this. It seems like a terrible job. But we're grateful that you're here and doing this work for the city of Urbandale. I've served on the board at Greater Des Moines Supportive Housing for roughly 5 years. This isn't the first time we've stood in a room like this. I can tell you that most of the time when we stand in a room like this, we hear no. We're always too close to residential housing. Now we're not close enough. We're too close to public services, or not close enough to public services. We've been way too close to a bike path and way too far away from a bike path. Nobody wants us near a playground, but we're way too far away from parks. There isn't a place this fits. Countless times we've kind of run into that notion. The truth is that no city plans for this housing because no city wants to need it. We don't walk around in our towns hoping that we find a homeless folks that we've planned to house. We find ourselves in a spot in Polk County where the need way outpaces the availability to meet it. So You've heard the numbers. We're closing in on 600 units of this type of housing that is required. By the end of the 2020s, it'll be over 700. What we're trying to do is a drop in the bucket of what is needed. We're here today because you understand the limitations of ordinance and of PUDs. That's why we're here, because we can make accessions and, or you know what I mean. But we can make those. That's why we're here. We heard them all this evening. We heard them at P&Z. The city holds that space to do what's right for the city of Urbandale. There are a lot of projects that are deemed good for the city of Urbandale that don't quite fit what we had planned for, that find a way. And that's why we're here. So for this project to happen, simply somebody is gonna have to say yes. Some city, some town, some donors, somebody will need to say yes. Somebody will need to say yes to their neighbors who need a bootstrap before they can pull them up, for a community to embrace and welcome them, a place to belong, a hand up. We'll need someone that says, hey, parking shouldn't come in between housing insecurity and hope. It shouldn't come between hunger and sustainable life. It shouldn't come between dignity and disdain. And it certainly shouldn't come between alone and belonging. I heard earlier that this doesn't make sense and that we shouldn't be emotional about this. But the truth is, the city of Urbandale isn't buildings. It's people. And the minute we start prioritizing buildings over people, we get into spots where 600 units of supportive housing are missing in an area that has more than enough for all of us. So tonight, all I'm asking is to give us a chance and say yes. Thank you.
Jeremy. Is there anyone else like to address the council? Jim? Nope, nope, go ahead.
I'm not sure I can explain how to make toast in less than 5 minutes, but I will try. Mayor Andeweg and members of the City Council, my name is Jim Beal, and I live at 9001 Oakwood here in Urbandale. Just briefly, a little bit of background by myself. I moved to Urbandale in 1975. Lived here my whole life, raised 4 children here. 3 of my kids graduated Urbandale High School. And I live here and I plan to die here in Urbandale. My family owned a construction company. We built most of Urbandale north of the high school. We built Cross Creek Apartments at 86th and Meredith, and we built St. Andrews Apartments across the street here, which used to be called Westview Woods. We continue to own commercial properties, 104th Street and Hickman in Urbandale, and also at 128th Street in Urbandale. So we're very invested here. Professionally, I'm a certified public accountant. I just recently retired from RSM, or RSM McGladrey, used to be called McGladrey. I was a tax partner there. I just retired after 32 years there. One of my specialties there, I was a national tax credit resource for the firm, and I was the senior tax credit specialist for the entire firm across the country in affordable housing and historic redevelopment. When I left the firm, I personally had 200 affordable housing tax credit clients across the country that I served, either provided tax or consulting services to. Over the past 5 years, I've served as president of Greater Des Moines Supportive Housing in the effort to bring more permanent supportive housing to the Greater Des Moines area, and now serve as its past president. I give you that just background and monologue for 2 reasons. One is I'm invested in the community. Like I said, I live here. I'm currently building a house that happens to be, yes, in Urbandale, and I plan to die here. I just want you to know I would not bring an irresponsible solution or situation to our community if I thought it was the wrong solution. I've worked in affordable housing my whole life, whether it's sweeping the job site or creating the private tax credit syndication that was responsible for all of the financing related to the YMCA supportive housing campus downtown. So when you talk about how we fund the stack, I'll get to that in a second. My expertise and my background is readily available if you want to dig into that. But I would tell you, in my professional opinion, if we can't do permanent supportive housing on this proposed site, I think we probably should just give up because we probably can't do it anywhere. A few facts in support of this particular projects, and I'm an accountant, so I'm a little bit obsessed with the numbers. HUD estimates this is savings of cost to Polk County if we take someone who's experiencing a homeless situation and we take them and we put them into permanent supportive housing. That can save between $7,000 and $33,000 a year per person to the county. That's a HUD estimate, with reduced ER visits, shelter stays, and incarceration. This is a low-cost, highly affordable project for our community. If you compare this to the Enclave Apartments, which this council has essentially sponsored by buying the Econo Lodge project and sponsoring and doing an RFP, that project has applied in the 2026 round for $1.7 million of credits. If you divide that by 9%, that's approximately, if you take it and divide it by the number of units, which they're going to have, I believe about 60 units there, their cost per unit is roughly about $242,000, okay? Our total all-in cost with acquisition, rehab, and the construction will be around $15 million. You get $15 million, you get 100 units. Now I realize the units aren't comparable, they're not the same size, you'll have families over there, we won't, I understand that. But if you just take the cost savings and you just round it somewhere between that 7 and 33,000, let's say it's 20,000 for rough math, 20,000 per person, that's 100 units, that's $2 million a year. We cost $15 million. We'll pay for this in 8 years just by the reduced burden on the county, and we're not asking for $15 million from the county. We're raising this with private funds, okay? To address a few of the concerns that could be raised, safety. Anyone concerned with safety, I have them call Emily Osweiler and have her sit down and go through the statistics of the life safety and the police calls over a 15-year period at the YMCA Supportive Housing Campus, and I would compare those to the police calls and life safety of any affordable housing project in the county, and you will find that it is less. The reason that is because that community down there is a community, and before it reaches external life safety or police, it goes through 3 or 4 levels, including the community of people that live there. Proximity. Our project is being evaluated negatively due to its location. Our project is 372 yards from the center of the pond to the east of our property. The Econo Lodge property that you were forced to buy and tear down is approximately 600 yards from the center of that pond. If there are concerns from our neighbors about how we will conduct ourselves, if you want to put a extended use agreement that is recorded with the land, surely we can agree on some resolution to those that have been done also on the Econo Lodge Enclave property. Property taxes, there's a concern about the property taxes. Even if we are a nonprofit, however, our property activities do not qualify under the exemption under Iowa Code 471.1, and we will be paying property taxes. Now to your question about funding. We're at $15 million on this project and another, let's say, $15 or $16 million in West Des Moines. We have several grant applications already submitted. We've secured a key gift of $5 million and 2 other grants of 1.5. We have bank, foundation, and Polk County Housing Trust Fund commitments for at least $15 million of loans. We have a capital campaign market study that leads us to believe we have a clear path to raising the remaining of our funds. As to operations, the net rental operations actually produces a surplus, and what we actually have to raise money for are the supportive services. We'll end up with a $2 million debt on both properties that we just have to have some debt on it because you have to look sort of poor but not really poor when you apply for these projects. Do we have everything figured out? Is everything in the end game and the financing figured out? No, not as much as I'd like. There are risks in this development. There are risks that this body took for the Econo Lodge property. We are in the chicken and egg situation of funding, zoning approval, and acquisition and negotiations. We stand before you requesting permission to continue our egg and chicken efforts. I'm in support of the project both personally and professionally, and in support of my fellow board members, I would request that you approve our petition. And I'll take any of your questions.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Questions for Jim? All right, thanks. All right, anybody else that would like to comment?
Good evening. My name is Ann McFarland. My address is 8136 Hadfield in Johnston. I am the current board president for Greater Des Moines Supportive Housing. I have some prepared remarks, but before I had a procedural question, doesn't have to be answered right now, about the owners that are opposed to the project. There was a residential unit identified, and that affidavit was signed by a Justin Huey as the owner of Everlasting Properties. I don't know if he's here, but I did a little poking around with what's publicly available, including on the Secretary of State's website, the Polk County Assessor, and I don't see him tied to this Everlasting Properties LLC anywhere. So I don't know if any due diligence was conducted in determining whether he was in fact the owner or if only the affidavit was used to determine that. But I think that is an impactful decision, because if that person is in fact the owner, then a supermajority is required. But if they are not, then I think that the vote is a simple majority. So I would just raise that issue. My prepared remarks. So I've been on the board of Greater Des Moines Supportive Housing for the past 4 years. I have only been the president for a little under 6 months. And just a few months after I was named the president of the Greater Des Moines Supportive Housing Board, I was diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer, which is why I have this great hairdo. But at that time, I petitioned Emily and the rest of the board to allow me to stay on and see this through, because I believe very strongly in our mission. Just 2 weeks ago today, I had a bilateral mastectomy, but I am here to talk to you tonight because this is so incredibly important for our community. I believe that we each have a moral responsibility as human beings to provide drink to the thirsty, to give food to the hungry, to clothe the naked, and to care for the sick. To perform these acts for the least of our brothers and sisters. But make no mistake, action is what is required. It is not enough to see the need or even to acknowledge that the need exists, but hope that it is solved by someone else or somewhere else. Doing the right thing can be hard, that's for sure, but it couldn't be clearer what the right thing to do is here. I hope that you will show the same moral conviction as the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Anybody else that want to speak? If not, I'll turn it over to Berkeley. If you want to make your comments, then we'll let the applicant make one last remarks.
David Ginger, Bell McCormick Law Firm. My office represents Berkeley Insurance Company. I'm here with Paxton Williams, who is one of the attorneys in my office, and he'll be doing most of the speaking.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, neighbors. As David said, I'm Paxton Williams. We represent Berkeley. We have a few comments I'd like to make. To begin, the law is important here, as are their particular facts. The question isn't whether supportive housing is important or needed, but whether, importantly, if the application met the necessary requirements and whether this location is the correct location. I'm aware that Berkeley submitted a letter to you all that included a number of major points. Our position is that the council has a responsibility tonight to deny the position due to procedural failures. There's Iowa case law that says failure to perform mandatory procedures invalidates all subsequent proceedings. There's a recent case from 2022, I believe, Kading Properties versus the City of Indianola, that says this. Here, petitioners failed to perform numerous mandatory requirements. I'll address those, but I want to also first address a few salient facts. First, we believe that the 320 square foot dwelling size requirement that has been discussed, that is inapplicable. That's incorrect. That size requirement comes from a catch-all ordinance that does not have anything to do with multi-residential family properties. And I'll put it up here so you can see it. Does this work? Does this work? Oh, yeah. Go. And as you'll see, that catch-all requirement has nothing to do with multifamily zoning requirements. But the important thing to look at, because there is no requirement in the PUD, because residential use was not considered there, there is language at ordinance section 160.24E2 that provides direction here. That says, I moved my notes around, I apologize. Okay. That says that where the master plan does not address a specific requirement, the requirement of the most proximate zoning district as defined by use shall be applied. So if you look at that, you realize that the petitioners are seeking to add multifamily residential as a permitted use. And the requirement that should be applied by law is those related to multifamily residential use. And where do we find those? If we look at the townhouse residential district section, and you also, if you look at the low density multifamily district and the medium density multifamily district, all of those speak to a requirement of 700 square feet. By law, that is the correct requirement that you all should be considering when looking at the law for the requirement. Next, I would also like to address the reduction regarding the parking requirements. So petitioners cite 2 studies to support the claim that a reduction is appropriate. So we read the studies. We read the studies because we wanted to see, to learn about the proposal and to see if such a reduction was appropriate. Neither study supports a reduction in parking here. If you read the Denver study, it says and I quote, "The need to own a vehicle is reduced when the surrounding neighborhood is walkable, bikeable, and has reliable transit that can get residents to work, school, shopping, appointments, etc." And that study dealt with, it says here, the majority of the surveyed properties were purposefully located within communities and neighborhoods that are walkable, bikeable, and near transit. That's the Denver study. The other study cited, the California study. When you read that survey, and it's a survey of something called the Jamboree Housing Corporation. So these were all units owned by one housing corporation. But that survey speaks to the impact of transit-oriented design. And it states that many Jamboree communities are designed to provide access to an array of retail outlets, schools, and other services within walking distance, as research shows that living in well-designed, walkable, transit-oriented communities near public transportation can result in a range of significant health benefits. Those are the 2 studies that were cited to promote the parking reduction. And if you read those studies, neither actually support a reduction in this instance. Now, if this petition is granted, what occurs? The City Council would be amending the comprehensive plan and the PUD master plan. These changes would not apply solely to this supportive housing project. So what does that mean? That means that any subsequent owner of the property, such as a for-profit residential landlord, would be able to lease the property to residential tenants for multifamily residential use with the same substantial reduction in parking and dwelling size requirements. This brings me to my next point.
If it practice me, if you could, you've been going for over 6 minutes now, so I need to have you wrap it up here.
Okay. We'll do so. Okay, I won't speak too much about the suitability issues that other folks have spoken about. And I know the folks who have spoken more than 6 minutes, I might just respectfully add.
I've been lax on everybody. I'm just giving you fair warning. I'm not telling you to sit down now, but just if you could come to a point, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. So I won't speak about the reliable transportation that other folks have talked about. And if you read the letter that was provided to you, there's a study that speaks about the value of reliable transportation. The article also, the letter also talks about the lack of residential parks. But I would say, importantly, that for the law, the procedural requirements really matter. And the ordinance requires that a master plan be submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission. That's in the ordinance. No amended master plan was submitted. You don't have a fulsome master plan in front of you today. And it's kind of like signing a contract when you don't know the terms of the contract. Even worse than that, here, we believe the ordinance in the law does not provide the council actually the permission to do that. And so we believe that the law is clear, that certain procedural requirements have to be followed and were not followed. And we believe that there's a duty to actually not approve the petition because of those procedural failures. Now, in closing, I would just say, in addition to the case law, even if you believe that we're not quibbling the fact that supportive housing is necessary, it's important, it is valuable. We're just saying that procedurally, the law and the facts here would not support a decision to approve the petition, in part because we also believe, as the letter suggests, that it would evidence spot zoning, invalid spot zoning. So with that, I don't know if you would like to add one thing, or that's it. Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Bob, could I ask a question? There was something in there.
Okay.
When you were talking to the 320 square feet, I kind of missed in there, you were saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if the 320 if they would want to use 320 as the minimum, it would have to be in the PUD master plan. Like you couldn't say 320 is like the assumed minimum. Is that what am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, we're saying the 320 from that ordinance section 160.49 is inapplicable, in part because the section I quoted speaks to the fact that when the master plan does not address a specific requirement, the requirements must be used to the most proximate zoning district.
Gotcha. So the PUD would have to specify, otherwise it's going to default to what the most applicable would be, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, Emily, do you want to make any final comments before? You're the applicant, I'll give you one last.
I don't think so unless somebody has a question.
Okay.
I guess I might have one.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So I think from some of the questions of opposition here, there's been kind of a general, like, why does this location kind of fit the mission, right? And I think we've heard from other folks that nowhere would fit the mission because it's just not designed that way, right? That's just not something that is commonly thought about. So could you give us a bit of perspective on why, the why here question?
Well, I mean, I think as you've heard, there is no perfect place, but we will be a community of ourselves where a lot of the supports we'll have on site, and they won't need to leave to go to those. But we've also talked with DART, and we've driven around and biked around the area, and we know that it will work. Is it perfect? No. Does it have everything we need and it will be successful? Yes.
Can I ask a quick follow-up?
Yeah.
The safety concern that was mentioned related to truck traffic and just that kind of thing, is that to what extent has that weighed on you? What have you looked at related to that?
Well, my colleague looked it up, and I guess I don't know what you were using, but it looks like there's 60 cars a day that travel that path. It's not something I'm worried about. I mean, there's people driving everywhere, and I think our residents will know when to stay on the sidewalk and to cross at the crosswalk, and
okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Emily also addressed the concerns about residents possibly using corporate green space. You know, in the neighborhood there's I know Berkeley's campus has a pond, has green space, and I've heard the concern that perhaps residents would wander into that space rather than use the green space that you're planning for. I just want to get a sense of how you'd handle that, or you know, what your view of that is.
Right. Well, I think if we create some sort of good neighbor agreement, you know, that can be a piece of that. Whether or not we have that, I plan to be a good neighbor and have a lot of conversations and two-way communication and check-ins. And so, you know, I will office out of that location, and I would hope that if there were issues, people would call me, or, you know, and then we would work through what is the problem, how often is it happening, who is it, the case manager could be pulled in. We want people to be successful. And so if we're saying, don't go over on private property, we have space for you here, that would be a conversation that we would have. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but one more question. Can you give us a sense of how this supportive housing facility would compare to what's there now in terms of safety and issues, if you know?
Great question. I have heard during the Planning and Zoning Commission, it sounded like the neighbors did have concerns about what was there now as far as the extended stay hotel. And so I would say, you know, if anything, there should be less issues. You know, I don't work with the extended stay staff, but the owner is out of state. You know, I'll be officing in the building. So there's levels of communication. We will have more structure. There will be less people because it'll be one person per apartment. You know, so more structure, more requirements, more staff, more supports. So whatever is happening now, I would say that there would be less concerns with what we're planning.
If you'll allow me just. Since I'm
Go
aboard,
for it. That's fine.
Just a little bit of context. This extended stay hotel is actually part of the Urbandale housing stock right now. We were forced to postpone our closing for 90 days with an extension of another 90 days. That's what they requested, because they have current leases in place at the extended stay.
What?
At the extended stay right now. So they needed time. I don't know if they have current leases. I haven't seen a lease, but they needed time to vacate the property. Okay, so if everybody thinks that this is just extended stay and professionals living there, you know, I don't live next to it. You can probably ask R&R and Berkeley that question, but you drive by there, if you spend a lot of time there, it is part of the Urbandale housing stock now.
Okay.
To answer your question.
Emily, a question for you. Have you heard from either of the entities or the three entities that are in opposition to this project since the P&Z meeting to address their concerns?
R&R sent me the letter that they sent to you all in opposition at the end of last week, but we have not met.
Okay. Has there been a suggestion to meet at all by them? Any outreach whatsoever?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, any further questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I believe everybody's had an opportunity to comment.
I move to close the public hearing.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery.
Second.
Second by Bodie. Any further discussion? If not, please vote.
My nay was an accident. I bumped
Okay.
I bumped
You
an
wanna-
A.
okay.
Pat
She
wants to
moved
be
it
here
to-
all
All
night.
right, thank you.
All right, public hearing's closed. We have, Maria, do you want to just outline again the alternatives, just so everybody's clear on where we are on the alternatives?
So the first item for consideration is amendment to the comprehensive plan, and I would strongly encourage council to have separate discussion on that as a legislative item. Your council should consider the information necessary to approve the amendment. Some of the considerations for amending a comprehensive plan, as you've done many times before, are contained in the smart planning principles in chapter 18B. So some of those things that we've discussed here today, maybe not sequentially, but certainly topically, would be part of that discussion. The next item, and you can take action on that item. The next item is an amendment to the PUD master plan. The city code permits the council to approve, deny, or direct revisions as necessary, to paraphrase, to the master plan as presented. However, regardless of the action that's taken there, unless it's to deny, council would still need to consider an ordinance if the action is to move forward with that particular item at a future meeting, which will require a future public hearing, at which time the master plan will be presented along with the ordinance for consideration at that public hearing. Does that answer the question on procedure? Or
So, yeah, so I understand the comp plan, but again, on the PUD master plan, if the council wants to approve that tonight, they can approve that tonight, but also give direction as far as what would be, what the council would like to see in the ordinance itself.
that's correct.
I have a question for Maria, and forgive my ignorance. Is amending the comprehensive plan considered zoning?
Technically, the comprehensive plan is considered part of the council's zoning authorities, but it's a legislative action under Chapter 414.
Clear as mud, but yeah. And that's not aimed at you.
All right, so is there any discussion then on the council for the first item on the amendment to the comprehensive plan?
So specifically, the amendment to the comprehensive plan that's being, there's a lot of pages. Stand by. Try and scroll. Should have waited to say something.
I got it right here.
All right. So the amendment to the comprehensive plan right now is asking I'm missing that.
Keep going. Or it's on page 2.
Is it on page 2 here? Comprehensive plan. It's office park.
It's right here.
Okay, so it is, so the amendment to the comprehensive plan would be from office business park to mixed residential. Like, I feel like I hear the concerns about mixed residential, like there being kind of an open book to that. I'm curious, like we had talked about earlier this evening with the Metro Ice, current Metro Ice location, like that is a public, semi-public as how we've amended it. Does that feel more appropriate for something that would potentially be supportive housing, or I guess, David, you're frowning. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? On that, or I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of churning a little bit here on that one.
In my opinion, any change to the comp plan needs to be somewhat residential in nature. And just to be clear, staff has reviewed this such that this is a multifamily project. Like, I think there were some comments earlier about what if there was another residential project here. So I just want to clarify that. So for me to be able to say, oh, a public or semi-public designation might make sense here, that would need, in my opinion, to be different than that. This is not the same thing to me.
Gotcha. So
If others on staff want to disagree, that is fine, but that's the interpretation I would make.
Gotcha. So because the action we took prior this evening was not residential, obviously, then it has a little bit more degree of flexibility with that than something that we're talking about that is inherently residential.
I don't think the two things are comparative. I think I hear where you're going, but to me, related to this request, it needs to relate to residential, in my opinion, and mixed residential is kind of the closest thing that maybe fits that mark, in my professional opinion.
Gotcha.
It would appear to me that the existing use is out of alignment with the existing future land use plan for the area, based on the way that the property is being used as leasable and long-term stay apartments. So to me, this is actually lining up more with the use that's currently there, what we're attempting to do. And that's my thought process on this.
I had a similar thought. That's, you know, it's supposed to be in the comp plan office / business. It's being used currently for housing. And so Maria gave me some comfort in knowing that when we amend the comprehensive plan, we're exercising legislative powers. So that means we're policymakers, not necessarily quasi-judicial, judges. I mean, I think it might be a mix of both, but I think that throughout this process, even if we, using some legal terms, even if we're sitting as a quasi-judicial tribunal, we're also still policymakers. And as a matter of policy, I don't see a problem with altering the comprehensive plan because this is something the community wants and needs. This is something that will enhance the safety of the community. It will promote the general welfare, safety, and security. And it's something that I think we have a responsibility not only to the Urbandale community but to the greater Des Moines community to provide this type of housing, this type of service to help alleviate the homeless problem in the greater metro. It's reached a crisis point. So this is separate and apart from whether the PUD master plan should be amended. I think this is the easier part of what we're doing on this. And so I want to say I acknowledge the concerns that have been raised by the opponents. I understand the concerns. And by the way, I think, Mr. Mayor, we're supposed to be, I think we have a policy that we should disclose prior communications with those who are in favor and opposed. So I'd like to do that now.
Okay, sure.
First of all, full disclosure, the city of Urbandale supports efforts, the efforts of the HSA. And in fact, we have a seat on the HSA board. It was, the mayor had been appointed, and the mayor recently appointed me to that seat. So I've attended board meetings, I think the last 3 board meetings of the HSA board as the city of Urbandale's representative on that board. There was a meeting on April 8th where Emily Osweiler presented. I was present for that. I heard the presentation. I participated in the discussion. I asked questions. And so I had an opportunity to, I didn't meet privately with Emily at that time, but I certainly felt like, that was a meeting and an opportunity to understand and learn about the program. I also had a Zoom meeting with folks from R&R, Adam Caduce, and Kara Centered, and also some folks from Berkeley. And we had a good discussion that probably lasted about an hour. I've also had conversations with the co-chair of the HSA board since the meeting of April 8th, Chris Coleman. So I feel like I've heard both sides of this and have tried to take in all of the various concerns from both sides. But at the end of the day, there's a lot I could say. I know others have more to say than I'm going to have to say, but I can support the amendment of the comprehensive plan for the reasons I've stated. I'll just leave it there.
I'll just follow Joe's lead and disclose that I also had a Zoom meeting with Adam Caduce and representatives from Berkeley and R&R.
Since we're doing that, I had a call from HSA and a call with Adam Caduce and representatives, but they were phone calls, audio only, and I was riding in a car and did my best to take some notes both times. But I have felt like I've heard a wide-ranging discussion on this both tonight and previously. There was one point, though, that was made this evening that I think is particularly relevant to amending the comprehensive plan, and that is that nowhere in a comprehensive plan do we say, let's put affordable housing here. And so because of that, and because this site would be well off transitioning to something like this, I would like to support this amendment to the comprehensive plan, and if it's not premature, I would so move. Now, is there something I need to put with that? Okay.
No. So we have a motion by Bodie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Carberry Montgomery. Is there further discussion?
I think I would. Okay. Okay. I think I would. Like I'm just kind of looking and trying to think about, like there was discussion about clashing use between spaces, and like we have multifamily. If I recall, I'm looking at page 7 of the agenda packet, like where Econo Lodge is or was, I guess, and the other apartments right there, like that feels to me like another space that kind of exists as multifamily housing that exists today and exists in the comprehensive plan. And so I think it's not, while it's in a set of office and commercial use, I don't think it's a terrifyingly large leap to say that it's regionally close to other things of that similar nature. I guess that's my main thought. And I got a text from Adam. I appreciate your text. I'm sorry I had to decline your meeting, but I got a text message from Adam and declined his meeting, so I'm sorry.
In full disclosure, I think we all have had a lot of discussions with a lot of folks on this. So. Yeah. But everybody's had an opportunity also tonight, obviously, to provide and comment on the public hearing. So.
And in full disclosure, I denied the meeting as well due to a personal issue in our house. But I think it's important to note before we take this vote that in 2024, the Metro Advisory Council identified affordable housing as the most pressing issue in the Metro. I think it's also important to note that this council has affordable housing as a top priority, and the Urbandale Human Services Working Group also identified affordable housing as their top priority. I don't think we can take this vote without the consideration that we are only one entity in a metro region that has a housing crisis, a homeless crisis, and I believe this is our moral responsibility to make this project work.
All right, with that, we have a motion.
Can I make one more comment?
Okay.
I'm sorry. I know that there are concerns about enforcement mechanisms to make sure that promises made or promises kept. This is not the stage at which we would address that, correct? Okay, I just wanted to clarify that I've acknowledged that concern and we can address it in later stages. And then I also just wanted to mention that the Planning and Zoning Commission's, the minutes of that meeting were very enlightening.
Yes,
And I put a fair amount of weight on the comments and the decision that was made there by our fellow Urbandale citizens, who I thought gave a lot of consideration and thought to their vote and voted against the staff recommendation. And that meant a lot to me as well. And I want to thank the Planning and Zoning Commissioners for the work they do.
And thank you to the staff for putting in the work on
Yes,
this too.
absolutely.
This is
massive.
a lot of work.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the amendment to the comprehensive plan? If not, please vote. That passes by a 5-0 vote. Next is on the agenda is a consideration of the amendment to the PUD master plan. Mary, do you have any further?
And I would suggest on this item to have it be discussion and provide further direction as needed. There can't be any final action on this item tonight anyway, because you need an ordinance in front of you. So that's what I would suggest, but open to questions if you have other thoughts or questions on how to proceed.
All right, so is there further discussion or direction that council members would like to give to staff based on what you've heard tonight related to that, before we come back with an ordinance?
Yeah, when we come back with the ordinance, well, I'm not sure how to ask this. We can have a discussion at that time about having some sort of agreement with the applicant. And really my question is this a project where we could have a development agreement with the applicant?
That's not currently before you, but I think it's subject to further discussion.
Would that be a discussion we would have at the ordinance stage? Or what stage would we have that discussion?
Wouldn't that essentially be in the PUD, whatever, I mean, that's the contract essentially, is the PUD, isn't it, Maria? Correct me if I'm wrong, but.
I mean, you can have a development agreement as well as a PUD rezoning classification. Those two things would have to be taken sort of in conjunction with one another and in discussion with the applicant, which hasn't occurred. So it's kind of hard to kind of speculate in the abstract on what that would look like. But so to your question, depends on what is on the agenda. If the ordinance is approving a PUD master plan, that's what's in front of you, and development agreement, if you so choose, would come later. That would really have to be negotiated and proposed to you separately.
At the ordinance stage, though, we could have a discussion about a development agreement in conjunction with that, if we wanted to, theoretically.
I think so. There's also a really specific provision in both the ordinance and state law allowing a conditional rezoning, which interestingly, PUD zoning in and of itself is a bit of a contract zoning concept, but you can also have a conditional zoning on top of a PUD zoning. So there are some options there, but I think a development agreement is conceptually possible given the fact that there are some there's some support for further additional contract requirements in addition to PUD rezoning.
I know that we're not doing that tonight, but I want to signal that I would be in favor of looking at and considering a development agreement so that we can put in place some provisions that would give hopefully some comfort to the folks who came tonight in opposition, because again, I acknowledge that they have some legitimate concerns, and they're valued members of our community. I want to mention that as well. So,
I think the concern I have here is they're trying to do 2 projects, and I would like to understand the timeline so that they can get a solid signal from us about the likelihood of being able to move forward. Because if we're not not going to say yes and direct, but just direct without saying yes first, we're not giving them that signal. Yeah. So I'd like to at least understand the timeline, or I'd like to understand why we can't potentially look at saying yes and do direction. And that's because I'm not an attorney, don't understand. Just a lowly engineer. I just do math. Okay.
Yeah. So we're talking probably a couple months as far as, because we're gonna have to have public notice.
Just the public hearing. We're gonna have.
Public hearing and then
the
3
public
readings.
hearing Ordinance.
So,
3 readings of the ordinance? David? Three readings
yes,
would be the
it'd be
ordinance?
3 readings unless the council chooses to waive
Mhm.
any of those readings, so.
Can we ask them what impact? Can we ask them what impact waiting a couple of months to get some kind of definitive response would have on their ability to move forward with the other project as well? I'm curious. Is that a fair thing to do, or we are out of public hearing and
We're out
can't?
of public hearing
can't do
really,
that.
but I
Okay.
think we can probably get some feedback after.
What?
Could put together. One thing we can do following this meeting, depending on the outcome here, is we can put together some timelines. I mean, there are some things that are within the council's purview to expedite the ordinance in terms of waiving the final reading and those kinds of things. I think it would be good in a case like this to put that timeline in writing and make that available to them. But unless Maria wants to interject here, I mean, there are certain, we have public notification requirements. We'll have the public hearing. So there is going to, I mean, there's a period of time that's going to transpire before an ordinance can be approved, no matter how fast the council may want to act. But there are, I mean, I think we can put together a timeline that includes what mechanisms the council has at its disposal to consider down the road, that if it likes the PUD ordinance, it could potentially waive at least the final reading of the ordinance. Putting a Gantt chart, so to speak, together might be helpful.
I like having that timeline. To add some level of certainty and at least like a spirit of like a spirit of saying, like, we like the idea.
Yeah, can we?
Like, what is is a letter of support a adequate tool for something of this nature? Like, to say that we appreciate like the type of project that this is and the level of like support that this, like, what this tries to solve for, because we're not then saying, well, we're signing off on the PUD amendment and we're not like we're not taking anything that's like locking us down, but it's also saying that we like the spirit of it. Can we make it, like, we're interested in trying to make this work? Is that even a reasonable thought?
That's the kind of thing I'm thinking about, so Maria?
Yeah, so just following the ordinance specifically, it says you can approve, you can deny, or you can require such changes thereto as deemed necessary to effectuate the intent and purpose of this code. That's 3 different actions you can take. And that third one will require further work to come to you at a later meeting. So if you want to specify the further actions, I would defer to staff if they have some specific direction they need following the meeting that maybe could help solidify an action item if that's what you're looking for. Or certainly just general consensus for direction would be appreciated for staff and legal counsel.
I think that's probably where we need to focus, is on giving staff direction as far as where we're going to head from here, rather than we can work on the other issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm concerned that they have specific, from what I have been told, specific due diligence periods that are expiring, and is the action that we have just taken sufficient to meet their due diligence requirements, because it's going to be several months before we can.
No, these 2 months.
2 months before we can possibly deliver the zoning that is required for the project.
Well, again, I think we can only control what we can control, and I think that's one thing is that we need to give direction to staff as far as what you want to see in the PUD ordinance. Then we can. There are some variables to that, and we'll have to communicate that with the applicant, and they'll have to work with their contract holder on that as well. So I think I think this council needs to focus on what do you want to see in that PUD master plan, give direction to staff so that can be drafted up, and then come back to you and have that approved by the applicant and approved by the council. If that's the case, at a future meeting, you can do that as quickly as possible.
So then can Christine and Rose come up and tell us what they think they need from us?
I think.
Jump on you, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was my question too. Is that something we do here and discuss what needs to be in that PUD, or is that something that happens outside of here?
No, again, I think what you're saying is that you'd like to have that discussion tonight from the council and give direction as far as what conceptually the council would like to see in that.
Correct.
The council, the staff then can work with the applicant on a draft of that. That would come back. We would set that, at such point, it would come back, set for a public hearing, and the council would either vote yes, no, or provide further direction. At that time.
I would agree with that, Mr. Mayor.
So I think off the top of my head for thoughts, I think in R&R's letter there is a list of really good ideas in there that are, as Emily pointed out, baked in as part of the plan. The things like the 24-hour staffing and the having the central green space, the heart space that she referred to, and kind of baking some of those ideas of supportive housing into what that would look like. Because I think that what was presented has a lot of value, and if we were to put that into the PUD as how that would look, I think that probably would create a lot of confidence in, the zoning itself says supportive housing looks like this. I guess that might be a good place to start.
I would have a question about what Blake just said, Rose, and that is when you revise or amend the PUD master plan, should it be done with the idea that if Greater Des Moines supportive housing isn't there anymore, that another user could come in under the same or similar master plan? For example, if it just became more of an affordable housing type project like we're doing at the Econo Lodge. Does that question make sense?
It does make sense. I think I know what you're asking. So typically, of course, zoning will run with the land, right? It's not tied to ownership or an operator. I think, and I'll defer a little bit to city attorney on this, but if we were to try to condition the PUD master plan or the pieces of that on ownership or operation, I think that becomes a conditional zoning situation, which has to be agreed upon by the applicant first. I think that's different. We don't commonly include what I would call more operational type stipulations in our land use actions. I won't say never, clearly in conditional use permits and things, hours of operation, that kind of stuff. But some of the things that maybe are referred to in terms of how they do background checks and that kind of things are not a land use matter.
Well, if we were to do that sort of thing, it would lend credence to the argument of spot zoning, correct? Maria?
I don't know if you want me to answer that. There's a lot of risk in any kind of
creative approach to rezoning in a situation like this. So certainly spot zoning is one concern.
Yeah, and by the way, for the record, I think we can do this in a permissive way. And so I don't mean to imply otherwise, but I also, want to make sure that we're doing it the right way. So I'm not sure that we want to necessarily bake in user-specific or very many user-specific conditions. I think that's why I thought the idea of a development agreement might be a better way to go, to bake those things in.
That makes sense.
Is it possible to kind of look at having these things done on parallel tracks, the development of the ordinance, and also some sort of, it's a safeguard is what we're trying to get to. So if something does go wrong that you didn't anticipate, can we somehow step in some supportive way? Either first right of refusal or something. I don't know what it would be, but can we do these things on a parallel track where we understand how to provide a level of safeguard that operationally it's going to go like it's supposed to, or we can help do something about it? And then over here, here's the land use piece, which is the ordinance. But what this looks like, I don't know.
I think Maria told us we can do that. That's how I understand.
Conceptually, yes.
Conceptually.
Yes, I've not been asked to kind of look into this particular proposal yet. So at this stage, we're really interested in council's kind of feedback or thoughts and general direction, and then we can advise a little further once we have time to sit with that.
Well, I would offer some general direction that as much as seems reasonable, that's tied to a land use and appropriate for an ordinance of this ilk, that we would put as much into it as we could that would fit and not put us at risk for some kind of zoning that we shouldn't be doing. And then on the other side of the equation, we try and develop an agreement that's a little bit more specific related to the operations of this site. That would be my input, and it's probably pretty weak.
Well, Rose, if we were just to give you direction to prepare a draft ordinance that contains the amendments that we're talking about tonight, and that would also, that basically would conform then to these changes, is that something that is doable? In other words, I will defer to your expertise to make the master plan right. Go ahead.
So to answer the first direct question, yes, we of course can draft an ordinance that approves the 3 requests that the applicant made and implement those into the PUD master plan. That's a process certainly that we can do. What staff was suggesting in the report is that as you have seen on other PUD master plan amendments, if staff in particular is supportive of them and there are other sections of those master plans that need to be adjusted, we would work with the applicant to look through all of the existing provisions, if you will, of that PUD master plan and propose changes accordingly and put that in front of the council. So that has not occurred here. The only thing we have done is mark up the existing master plan with the 3 specific requests. So staff would, at a minimum, want to go through the rest of this master plan document and take out things that are no longer applicable, perhaps, for a 1-lot PUD. That's now, if it becomes something residential, and make sure we have those other pieces in there that if we were looking at this for a residential project, that would be included in a PUD master plan. So at a minimum, I would go through the existing framework, but also if there are other things that you direct should be considered, then this is the time to draft that.
I think something that was called out was like that minimum room or minimum unit size, and just kind of understanding the adaptive reuse component of this, like obviously dramatically changing unit size is gonna change how the project works and everything like that. So we'll probably, I would imagine we would probably need something related to minimum unit size.
That's one of the three. Yeah.
What
Minimum
I'm-
unit size is one of the three that's already proposed.
One of the
in
things
there.
I noted was that we didn't have a way to account for bicycle space versus parking space. Is that something like you're looking at? So they have to have X number of bicycle spaces, maybe it's the other 0.5 bicycle spaces for the residents. I mean, are those types of the things that you're looking at? Are you looking for direction on materials? Like, what's the scope?
Yeah, what are we
of
supposed to be
what
talking about here?
you're
So
looking
it's
for?
it's really it's really what the council feels is necessary in order to approve this. But I would say categories of things of every master plan are building materials, parking. If there's anything site specific about landscaping or making pedestrian connections or outdoor space or signage, if you think about any PUD master plan, sort of the broader categories of things that we routinely consider, but in the example you just provided, certainly our municipal code doesn't provide a minimum bicycle parking per se. So if that is important in this particular PUD, then certainly that is something that can be addressed in the PUD. So that's why I'm saying it is hard for staff to tell you precisely what should be in it. Things like that.
The one thing that I would say is we typically have dedicated parkland requirements. I would say that the courtyard can fulfill that requirement within this property.
I think that'd be fair, yeah.
I think that would be fair.
What you had mentioned about like connection, like making sure that the building, like sidewalk, is connected to what has been installed, I think that's fair.
It looks like they already have planned fencing. I mean, that I would assume would consider part of this.
Buffering.
Yeah, buffering on the north side, I think.
I would think pretty much all of those things you would routinely look at, you would look at here. I think one of the other things that staff would likely do, as I mentioned earlier, is we would likely recommend taking this PUD master plan that exists and taking all of those uses out except for this one. There are 70 some odd uses permitted on this one lot, and staff would recommend that that is no longer the case.
I think that's
I
fair.
agree with that. And then we've mentioned before things like security. They're planning on it, so I don't know whether that can go in here or not. But I know in other things we've talked about that in some way. I don't know whether it's ended up in the ordinance or not, but we've had those conversations in the past. Security, lighting, things like that.
Yeah.
I think we could certainly address exterior lighting. Any like operational security probably doesn't belong in the ordinance piece of this.
Right. That feels more development agreement.
Yeah, I get it.
Maybe parking lot lighting, like, obviously zero, not exceeding the property line, obviously, but like, there's probably something along with that. I think there was talk of, since we're talking about parking, there was talk of like, this is, like the conceptual plan says that there's this much parking, contemplating what the conditional parking might need to look like too. Is that something that feels PUD related, or?
Certainly, City Council could direct the parking as part of this. So if that includes what is shown or what is shown plus that delayed installation, parking can absolutely and should be part of the PUD master plan.
I would argue that it's the proposed amount of stalls and then I think if there is an issue, we can revisit that, and maybe to revisit in 3 years after operations. Is that a piece, or does it have to be like all or none?
I would probably suggest utilizing the delayed construction piece of that, simply because if an ordinance is approved that says X amount of parking is permitted, then X amount of parking is permitted. So if it does become a problem, there's no regulatory mechanism to go back to that. If you do the delayed provision, that would still be on the table, so to speak.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right, does that give enough initial direction?
We will draft an ordinance, and if it requires additional consideration, you can direct us accordingly.
Okay. And I would encourage, there would be some additional collaboration among the applicant and the neighbors too. Again, we appreciate the perspectives of everybody, certainly, and we've taken this council's taken that all into consideration tonight, and we want to continue to do that. So this is not, as everybody can attest to here tonight. I think we all respectfully have some different opinions on this, but we can all at least try to find something that hopefully works for everybody. So I hope there's some continued collaboration as we move forward in the next step of the process.
So do we need to make a motion?
No, there's no,
yeah.
I don't think we need another motion at this point.
Or is it a motion to defer
The
action
amendment to
or?
the UDS master plan.
I would, at a minimum, I would make a motion to defer final action on the amendment petition to a subsequent meeting, and that way you've taken the necessary steps for the amendment portion under 160.24.
All right.
So move.
Second.
There's a motion by Bodie, second by Kroll. Any further discussion? If not, please vote.
Did you get that, Nicole? Okay.
That passes. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and everybody's participation tonight in a respectful manner. We truly appreciate them. We will continue the discussion and dialogue, so thank you. All right, we will move on. Okay, we're gonna recess for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back here.
Please.
We'll come back at 8:43. All right, we are back in session. We will reconvene the meeting. We will move on to item 8 of our agenda. We'll start with item 8.1 is to establish a public hearing for the storm sewer and surface water flow easement vacation of lot 28 Allerton Park at 14811 Holcomb Avenue. Rose will answer any questions on this if there are any. This establishes the public hearing for May 19.
Motion to approve resolution 147-2026.
Motion by Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Moving on to planning and zoning items, item 9.1 is to consider the Kading Office Addition site plan at 7008 Madison Avenue, and Christie will present. Christie?
Very good, thank you. Pop over here. Okay, tonight, the first item is a site plan for a building addition at 7008 Madison Avenue. Locationally, we are at the southwest intersection of 70th Street and Madison. I'm going to pop this up. You can see the property zone CN, which is that bluish. It's our neighborhood commercial site. Surrounding to the north and to the west is single-family development in the R1S zone district. So here's where we are. This is a building that's going to stay, and then they are demolishing these 2 other buildings, and they're going to put an addition in its place. The property and the project is going to extend all the way from 70th Street, over here on the right, to the left, 71st Street. You can see that this was a photo caught mid-demolition. The excavator and the dump truck are all out there at the same time. So that's where we are regionally. The building addition is 1.5 stories, and it is here. The first story is about 8,700 square feet. The second story is a little under 3,000 square feet, so it's like a partial story and a half, which will make sense when I show you this elevation. I'm going to start down here, the north elevation. They want to orient Madison Avenue as their main entrance, and so you'll see that main entrance here. And then because they do back up to the proposed public plaza area, that's kind of the center part of our big node in the downtown master plan. They have a story and a half with some outdoor space kind of looking over that. It's a little bit of a different situation that you don't see very often, but we have 2 plans. The Fort Urbandale Comprehensive Plan, it's designated as mixed residential in that plan, but we're still zoned CN, as I mentioned earlier. And also we have some components of the downtown master plan that we adopted almost a year ago for this big node, big concept, or central concept plaza. Let me go back to the aerial. So just on a bigger scale, the city owns this center parcel. The city owns 7025, that parking lot. The city owns the old Dairy Queen. The city owns 7015, which is where Big Sky Bread is. And I don't think we've closed yet, but we're about to own the Green State. So you can see that that addition will kind of look into and down upon this. I'm prefacing that because in the downtown master plan, there are various goals and ambitions of that document, visions of pedestrians circulating into that central space, kind of an access street through there. We did talk about the downtown master plan goals, where we talk about shared on-street parking, where we talk about off-site regional stormwater detention, connections to the central the central amenity space. They've opted to keep parking all on their parcel. They want their own parking for their own staff, not part of a shared on-site parking. They have provided, or conceptually providing, their own detention basin on the property that you can see there in green. So we have not put those zoning regulations in place that implement all the downtown master plan goals. Those are currently underway. The consultants on board, and we've met with them a couple times. They've been on site.
But right now, all we have is a property zoned neighborhood commercial, the existing site plan code, the existing zoning code, or what they needed to use to propose that development. So the staff is recommending approval because it's in conformance with what we have on hand in terms of those regulations. There are some things they'll need to evaluate as part of their standard site plan process. They're a little short on parking. There's some landscaping items that need to be changed. They will probably take out some sidewalk that's too narrow and put in the standard 5-foot sidewalk. They'll be required to provide the minimum open space amount in terms of trees and shrubs, and of course our newly adopted species with the diversity of species and native species. So as I mentioned, staff is recommending approval. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval last week when they heard this. The comments and conditions, subject to the comments and conditions listed in your staff report. I will take any questions you may have. Chase Hauschild and Mark Lee are still here to represent their case. Should you have any questions for them?
All right. Questions for Christy first?
So with the sidewalk, I think if I recall correctly, the idea is that the spirit of it is that sidewalk would continue eventually. And I believe that there was a note that's called out somewhere in here. I haven't gotten a chance to specifically find that, but.
We had encouraged them to find a way to, well, we put a note in there. It's one of the comments to connect that pedestrian way to the public space. There's a short retaining wall in the way, but we think they can probably grade it out. But we're hoping, normally you're talking about sidewalk extensions to the right of way and interconnectivity. So with that interconnectivity and the goal of pedestrian circulation, we've put it in as a condition in that. And they didn't raise any concerns on that condition.
Okay.
Okay. Anything further?
Move approval, Council Letter 8581.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Any further discussion? Please vote. That passes. You can go now, guys. All right.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I mean, but you did get name dropped in the other one, so.
Yeah, caught that.
Thank you.
I did.
Well, I know that. Yeah, I know that case. Item 9.2 is the Carmel Ridge and Woods preliminary plat at 13600 block of Aurora Avenue.
Very good, thank you. Also, here for the Endurance Prize tonight, the applicants for the Carmel Ridge and Woods preliminary plat. We are at the southwest intersection of Aurora and 128th. And I turned on this red line layer first. You've seen this from me before. Timber Village Plat 2 is this little 8-lot cul-de-sac on Quail Ridge. What is in front of you tonight, and I'll flip over to in a minute, but we're on the south side of Aurora, across from the Des Moines Christian School's new campus, and across from the Jeff Harm Park, and very close and across from Webster Elementary. So the preliminary plat before you tonight is in regard to these two cul-de-sacs, 24 single-family detached lots that are being proposed. One's a cul-de-sac strictly, and the other is a cul-de-sac with a future stub street to allow for development to the south as we keep the options open when they're ready to develop more. So you can see that layout here. Public streets, 5-foot sidewalks on both sides of the streets. They have to meet the minimum requirements of the R1S district. They certainly exceed those in terms of lot sizes. I think someone picked up on this in a question to staff. We did too. We're concerned that easements may really encroach on a couple of those lots. So as we get all of the layers and they look at their design and layout, certainly they'll build buildable lots, but there were a couple that were more restricted than normal. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit because I want to talk about Winston Avenue in a couple There is a maximum length of 600 square feet on a cul-de-sac in our subdivision code. Winston Avenue is closer to 725. They have asked for a variance from that condition, and that information is included in your staff report. And then the other thing I want to highlight is they do show the trail connection that will come through their development and eventually head towards the south. That trail has been on the concept plan for the Parks and Rec Department. We did take this to the Parks and Rec Commission for their review and approval, because overall they had asked, combined as the seller and the buyers had asked staff to consider a trail system that stays on the west side of the drainage way that goes up through here. The current version goes to the east side, and so they came through with a proposal and asked the Parks and Rec Commission and staff to consider something that stays to the west. That will be several years in the making. Likely, there's no immediate desire to continue 138th Street to the south, but we've seen the concept plan on how that could work when the time comes. So the developer will be required to build the first leg here, and the developer at the end of Quail Ridge is building the first leg here. Yes, there will be a gap, but right now we're trying to get as much of the trail constructed with the development as possible, so there's less angst in the future by homeowners who claim they were never told there was going to be a trail and we were taking down a tree. We're just trying to get that in place before people build their houses and that sort of thing, and so they've included that in their layout. Staff is recommending approval of both the variance and the preliminary plat, subject to the comments and conditions you see in your staff report. Planning and Zoning Commission saw this last week and recommended the same. And I'm sorry, Paul, oh, there he is. Paul moved. Paul Clausen from CEC Engineers here. Stephanie and Scott Denton are here as the buyers and developer of this project. Should you have any questions for them?
And this is a preliminary, like they'd come back for a final that would actually, or like the final plat for like the actual lot lines, like that to contemplate buildability.
So this is the preliminary plat, and they have put into place on one of the pages like the front yard, rear yard setbacks, side yard setbacks. So they're contemplating that right now, and those shapes of the lots will be how they continue with their design, and then the final plat will lock it.
Okay.
Move approval, Council Letter 8582.
I have a question.
I bet I know what it is. Go ahead.
It has nothing to do with the school.
It doesn't?
No,
then I was wrong. Okay.
It's right there.
I know.
No, the length of the cul-de-sac, I mean, I'm assuming that's for fire, and the fire department is fine with
yes,
the exemption?
Yep, the fire department was part of that review and provided feedback, and given the low number of lots that are on this cul-de-sac, they were not concerned about having that variance in place on that length.
And then the other one was just kind of more of a general question, because I happened to be driving down 142nd Street very recently, and there is a Carmel something subdivision.
Yes.
And I mean, do we care? I mean, it sounds like a great name, but is there any confusion, or do we have any policies about?
They have, actually it's, oh, sorry.
Well, no, I was gonna say, no, go ahead. Yeah, you had the same answer.
No, it's
probably.
okay. Carmel and Carmel Park by the same development group did the two cul-de-sacs on 142nd Street. So we are not concerned. They will have to get that name verified with the county auditor to verify they can have the name of this subdivision, which they have likely already done. But they'll show us that they've done that at the time of final plat.
Okay.
So we're not concerned that it starts the same, it ends differently. It's not a problem for us.
Okay.
We put my real estate hat on. Each plat is certified by, as Christy said, the auditor looks at each name, so each plat has a unique name,
Okay.
so there's no confusion on lot names. So
It confuses me just a little bit, but.
It's all good.
So is there a second?
motion by
Yes,
Kroll, is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Second by Carberry Montgomery. Any further discussion? If not, please vote. All right, that passes. Thanks for your patience tonight. All right, moving on then to regular agenda items. Item 10.1 is consider the 2026 Series A General Obligation Capital Loan Note Sale. Nikki online?
Asleep at this point.
Nikki, are you awake? She couldn't answer any questions.
I'm here just for questions.
All right, just for questions. Any questions for Nikki on this?
Move approval of resolution 150-2026.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. These are just routine post-issuance items, so. That passes.
Move approval of resolution 151-2026.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. We'll move on to city manager's report. David?
Just real quickly, in the interest of time, I'll save everybody the longer report. We'll put some stuff in writing. I did want to share with the council, we're going to be doing some follow-up. Council's aware that there was a property tax bill that passed at the end of a marathon session with the legislature. You know, high level, there's some things in there that, to be honest, concern other people more than they do me. Probably concern other cities more than they should us. But there are some things in there that we need to pay attention to. We're going to have some discussions about TIF and make sure we fully understand the implications of the bill. There are some implications with TIF. But when we started the conversation at the beginning of the session, we said if we can emerge with our special revenue levies uncapped, that would continue to be a tool in the toolbox that we would use in our budgeting process. So that did happen. That's the good news. However, we are going to need to start thinking about more moderate term and more longer term in our budgeting process, because utilizing those levies, it's a short term thing. It's not. I mean, structurally, we need to really start to think about what does our what are the service level implications over 3 to 5 years look like, because I don't want to take the lazy way out and just defer the tougher decisions that will come. So things will get a little leaner with this. There's no question. The good part is we do have the new growth component, which helps I would say a moderately to fast growing community like Urbandale. But still just having the constant pressure of costs is something that we need to have conversation about. So long story short, probably too late for that. More information to come. We're going to have some discussions as a team, and really, I think, use this summer to look at some of our long-standing practices and see what do we need to do, what do we need to incorporate, because things will have to change a little bit. We won't be able to continue to do everything the exact same way with the exact same results because of this bill. That's all.
And just as a follow-up, just even the initial comments I'm seeing, since this was essentially still being drafted 20 minutes before they took it to the floor on Sunday afternoon, it's truly a Frankenbill. Unlike, the comprehensive property tax reform we all kept hearing all session long. So expect some tweaks and amendments next year too. So, which is, it's not the end. I don't think it's the end result. I think you're gonna, as people digest it and you hear various factions looking at it and wanting some changes, expect some tweaks next year too. So anyway, Blake.
Just want to appreciate everybody involved tonight. I know it's a long one, but it's good work, I think, that we're doing, and good discussion to have. One quick thing, I saw that Des Moines was piloting like a yellow border around their traffic lights to draw attention to the signals, and that from their study reduced some traffic accidents. I think there's an article I can forward from Axios that was reporting on it. I thought that was kind of interesting, and I didn't know if that was something we'd considered as part of our budgeting. It sounded like a very low-cost way to draw attention to signals and reduce accidents.
Yeah, and I know there are other cities doing that as well. I will pass that along to to John Larson, and we will follow up.
Yeah. And then just thinking about safety as well, you know, there's, when we talk about programming downtown and the 4th of July parade and things like that, there are mobile barricades for like traffic control and kind of protecting intersections and things like that. I know Polk County EMA has potentially a handful or a small amount. Des Moines might have a small amount that they probably use pretty frequently. That might be something for us just generally to consider, if that's like a, you know, is that a police purchase? Is that a public works purchase? I don't know, but it might be worth thinking about and maybe asking Polk County EMA if we could borrow some for an event at some point and play with them and see how we feel about them. I think that'd be a valuable thing to consider when we're budgeting. So that's all I got.
All right. Bridget?
I also like to thank everyone for their hard work and shepherding this evening. We officially transition. I think tomorrow is actually the official transition of our new CEO at DART. Erin Hockman will begin service. I think you've all probably met her. Very much looking forward to continuing the positive momentum that we have going at DART. There will be a lot of information coming out on the new service lines. Urbandale will be significantly impacted positively with the new service, and come this fall, we will have a on-demand service that would potentially service the Greater Des Moines Supportive Housing Campus. So looking forward to that, and I hope you've all been able to sign up or contemplate signing up for the bus tour at the end of the month. There are limited seats available, so sign up if you think you're going to be able to make it. I think you guys forwarded that invitation along. So that's all I have. And I think this Friday I'm planning to go to the food pantry to help with the raised beds. I don't know if anyone else is planning on doing that, but
No. I was not able to do it, but.
so.
Do you know what time that is?
I think it's noon.
Angie probably has something on it.
I have Angie's little event at noon.
Yep.
Awesome.
You say I thought Angie sent something out on it, so.
So I'll be there. I look forward to maybe getting dirty or something. I don't know. Maybe this soil will be slightly less compacted than last year.
Hopefully with the rain we've had.
That's Friday, May
So.
8th at noon at the food pantry?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have that on there. Okay. June 9th, there's an ICON board meeting followed by a tour of the downtown sites. If anybody would like to join me for that, let me know, and I will get an invitation out.
What time is that?
June 9th, thank you. There's ICON board meeting. I repeat myself because it wasn't on mic. There's an ICON board meeting, and after that, a tour of the downtown sites. I'm guessing it'll be in the neighborhood of 8:30 or 9. I'll do some checking on that, but it would be in the morning. So if anybody wants to join me for that. And then the Iconic Riverfest is June 10th in the morning. We would be meeting at Waterworks Park, come back to Urbandale to remove garlic mustard, and you can go back to the park for lunch at noon-ish. I'll be team lead in Urbandale, which means I'll be asking Jan what I'm supposed to do. So there's that. And then I'm not sure everybody's aware, but our communications team won big awards at the Public Relations Society of America for the Go Green Urbandale and for their newsletter. And I just want to make sure everybody knew that. I don't know if I ever remembered to mention that. I was very excited to hear that because those products deserve that.
Yeah.
So that's it.
All right. Amy?
Just a reminder, the Sustainability Fair, that is on Thursday from 5 to 8, I believe-ish time frame.
Oh, yeah. It's I think it's 5 to 7.
5 to 7? Sure, that too.
5 to 7 is what I've got.
Perfect.
Mention that. Thanks for mentioning that.
I think that is the only big thing I have on my calendar.
It's going to be cool, and I should back you up on that and mention that it's also part of the Walnut Creek Watershed Management Authority's Riverfest event is being held in conjunction with our Sustainable Urbandale this year. So it's a little bit bigger than usual.
That's awesome.
And they've got quite a few, it should be a very great event. But it is part of Walnut Creek's, and we are the largest landowners in the Walnut Creek watershed, just FYI.
Very cool. The only other thing is just, we're seeing some stuff regarding e-motos and e-bikes and
Yep.
just paying attention to what's going on there.
Yep.
Particularly.
The chief is working and on an ordinance, and we will be coming forward soon
Good.
with that. Yep.
That's great, because people are mentioning it to us, other council people,
Yes.
when we run into them.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we can learn from Waukee before we have
Yes.
ours, that would be great.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, yeah, I saw that at least there was a draft out there for Waukee that would ban bicycles from roads
Right.
over 25 miles per hour. That's dead on arrival in my
Yes.
in my world. But anyway, so I
They
don't
also
know.
had 200 people show up at their council.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's, I mean, with respect to our friends in Waukee, I don't think that's a very wise idea for a lot of different reasons. But,
Right. Yeah.
I went to the Cobblestone community had a celebration on Saturday. They completed their $6 million renovation, and it really looks fantastic. I know Pat lives in the neighborhood there, but they've got a big note to pay off now, and you know they're taxing themselves. But they also, some of the residents there, you know, were curious about, you know, whether, I don't know the answer to this, whether we do any like HOA training to kind of bring in board members and train them on, yeah, I think there's not a lot of knowledge out there about what do you have to have in a reserve fund, and, you know, how far out do you need to look. And some of these townhome communities are aging, and, you know, Cobblestone is one of the oldest. But I think we're going to see this more and more, and we may end up with some dilapidated housing stock if some of these HOAs aren't understanding what they need to do to maintain. So I don't know.
Honestly,
It's not something-
Iowa law's pretty light on that stuff. You know, it varies greatly between states, and I mean, you see some pretty robust laws like that in, you know, obviously like in Florida or
Yeah.
some other places where you have a lot of communities like that. But Iowa's law is very, very light on that. So.
Well, that's what I understand.
And
but
when the law changes, that's when the shock comes, is when, you know, Florida
Yeah.
made the changes to actually try to make them more financially stable. It turns out people didn't really like the HOA fees that it was going to take to maintain the private infrastructure. I don't know that there's a role for us in terms of that, because that's really a private matter. But it's a ticking time bomb in terms of the amount of private infrastructure that's constructed in our communities.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, maybe it's not a role for us. My thought was that someone needs to educate these folks, and at the end of the day, if one of these communities goes under, I mean, people just walk away. Who's going to be there to pick up the pieces? And so I'm talking about, you know, a seminar or something that bring in folks on HOA boards with and have someone with some expertise and talk to them about these things. You know, one of the things at Cobblestone, I think, was, you know, their fees were way too low for a long time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, now there's a shock.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not that the law changed, it's just that this place has fallen apart.
Right.
And so who's going to pay for that? And then people had a heck of a time unloading units, because if you come in now, you're going to be taxed. So anyway, just a thought. Obviously, it is private infrastructure, but on the other hand, this is housing stock in our city that you know, could go south if these HOA boards don't know what they're doing. And you know, a lot of these places are going to start aging pretty quickly. So. Just mention
I'll
that.
jump in here a little bit, because I joke, and it's not even really a joke, that I'm on the council because I couldn't hang on the HOA board because it was too much. And we just had ponds to deal with and traffic circles. And luckily we had a retired city engineer, a city attorney, and a retired engineer that were able to negotiate deals with Waukee School District and, dredge our pond to the tune of, $80,000. But people are not equipped to deal with this, and I think that is something, when we met with the folks near the farm there on Meredith, this fall, I think that's something to consider, because it's a whole lot of responsibility, and if it goes south, the ponds or the townhouses, we have, drainage problems or other problems.
Well, and they can learn from each other too.
Well,
and they should-
honestly, it's maybe something that the League of Cities can bring up as an affirmative agenda, rather than always fighting the legislature. And this is something that maybe they could work to craft some sort of positive affirmative agenda to take to the legislature.
Our state legislators here in Urbandale tell me that there have been efforts that have been rebuffed by the other side of the aisle. That's all I can say.
Well,
I don't know factually if that's right or not. The other thing I just want to mention, Spring Sizzle was fun. Not as well attended, I think, as the event last fall, but I think it's great to have those pop-up events. So anyway.
Yeah, and
I've
some of
talked
us
too long.
spent way too much.
I did too. All right, I'll keep mine brief. I had a lot of stuff, but I'll just keep it very brief. I spoke in the last couple of weeks. I've spoken anywhere from third graders to high school seniors in Urbandale. So, elected a mayor of fifth grade at Olmsted. Elected a mayor of Biztown at Olmsted. Talked to as you saw, I think a lot of you saw on Facebook, spoke to the senior class on civics and civic responsibility, and that was a great discussion too. David and I met with Catch Des Moines with Trina Flack, the new CEO. She's doing great. She'll be probably coming to present in the near future in June sometime. That's the highlights for me. So we've had a long meeting. Thanks everybody for hanging in there with us tonight. We stand adjourned. Appreciate it. Oh, and I will not be here. Mayor Pro Tem Bodie will be in charge of the next meeting, but I will be watching on Good Legal Drugs from home with a knee replacement at my next meeting. So.